chosen breed. You don't see too many like me, cause I am one of the reasons you do what you do when you wanna be me instead of you. Cause I am still on beat, showing love to the streets. Come on, you know me, cause that's who I am.
Oh, well, good evening, Shock Jock fans. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Kevin Hastings, myself, Hunter Yancey. Zach Mayhue is in the house today like he usually is on Wednesday. Sometimes he's here on Mondays, too. Hope everybody, all of our listeners, whether you're from the area or you're listening outside the state, maybe even outside the country. We've actually had a couple people say they're outside the country. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Wednesday.
We had a guy from New Zealand watching during the draft.
He said he wanted football news, and we popped up. So I was like, that's the greatest thing we've ever heard. So look at that.
Interesting.
We are higher up in New Zealand, I'm guessing, than ESPN is. And that just tickles my fancy 100%. Anytime I can beat those bozos, I'm happy.
I think I got my camera right. I'm very picky.
I'm very picky.
I think I got it.
You got it.
I got it. We got a bunch of things to talk about today. Heartbreaking news just came across my news feed, Hunter. And, I had a list of things to talk about today. But just, in times like these, bad things happen. And you just, it's tough. It's so tough. But news is that Yadier Molina may be willing to and have to play for another team next year. And I just don't know what to do.
Stop the presses!
I just don't know what to do with myself.
Stop
Hunter.
the presses! That is breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
The 38-year-old's contract ends this year. He's getting paid $20 million. And he just basically said he just wants to play baseball. I'd love to be back in St. Louis, but we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, the reality of the business is it's difficult for a 38-year-old catcher. So we'll see what happens going forward with that. To do all-time leader in caught steals percentage, Hunter. Not bad.
Not bad. Real question is Kevin, do we just lay to rest then all the winning seasons now that the St. Louis Cardinals will have in the future?
Yes.
Without Molina.
They're done.
It's just over.
In 17 years, Hunter.
Yes.
Had one losing season. And they had 79 wins.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good losing
say
season.
That again. From if I remember correctly, in 17 wins of Yadier Molina's career, 17 years, one losing season, and it was 79 wins.
So you can just throw winning seasons out the window now. No more playoff berths. Nothing.
Well, here's the deal: and the biggest thing is his the ERA. Zach, team ERA it's one run lower when he's not out there. Or he is out there
because he's like the quarterback. I mean, that's what a catcher really is. He's got control of everything.
There's such a difference when you have a good catcher as opposed to a mediocre or okay catcher. The best teams I've been on in my life always had a good catcher. Anytime you can keep the other teams from, defensive wise, the strategy, the work that they put in is just incredible if you can get a good one. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up a little bit. Nothing major yet this exact minute, but just saying that he would be willing to move on to another team if he had to. Hopefully that wouldn't come up. Started in 2004 was his first year. Got 51 games in. Here's the seasons. Sorry. I was off one game, Hunter. It was 78 wins instead of 79. With Yadier Molina on the St. Louis Cardinals, their win totals 105, 183 in a World Series. 78 was their worst year in 2007. And so they haven't had a losing season in 13 years. 86, 91, 86, 90, 88, 97, 90, 100, 86, 83, 88, and 91 wins. I don't know what to do.
Throw it out the window.
I just don't know what to do.
It's all over now.
It is.
It's all over.
It is.
The dynasty is over.
Maybe not. He said he'd maybe get another contract.
They lost Pujols and everything was good, but
right.
I still think the position. It still goes back to the position. Position is.
Well, even if you look at the offensive stats, you look at Pujols' offensive stats, he got a Gold Glove, but it's still not the same as making your whole team's ERA one run less.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is just
That's pretty
so huge.
effective.
That right there is so huge, and it makes such a big difference.
That's effective.
All right, Hunter.
Yes.
Zach's here for Wednesdays. We had Monday, we touched on some of the Last Dance this week. We've got NFL Draft. Zach has not been around for any of our draft stuff, so
He has not.
we're going to talk some of that with him today. NASCAR looking to reopen May 17th in Darlington. They may have 2 races in Darlington that week before they have the Coca-Cola 600. Cooper has announced that they're probably going to let that happen without fans more than likely. Don't know about the All-Star race yet, if that's still going to be held or if they're going to fill that with another race.
Got it.
Gaston County announcing today they're reopening businesses, non-essential businesses from 5 o'clock. Some people are losing their minds, but you know, Zach, you work in a grocery store. JP works in a grocery store. Is there not a greater chance of you spreading it at a grocery store than a mom and pop shop that gets 10 customers a day?
I will say this is my opinion. If you go to Ace Hardware or Lowe's,
Right.
or the
Yes.
grocery store,
Yes.
you're going to see how many people's loaded up there.
A ton.
If we open everything, this is my personal opinion. If we open everything, then that's going to spread the people out and keep
A little bit further.
That's what I agree with. You know, I mean, we're seeing a lot of traffic in the grocery stores, and we have to because
They can't go anywhere else.
Well, this country, the backbone is small business, and the fact of the matter is, how do you tell a small business owner that you're not essential and you can't open, but the billionaires, Amazon's still open, Walmart's still open, all the grocery stores still open. The guys who have 2 and 3 commas in their bank accounts, they get to be open, but everyone else isn't, and that's hard for people to really deal with and accept, and I see the small businesses. I mean the barbers and especially the people who work on tips and cash and things like that. You know, I really concerning about what to do. It's you know, we don't have the answers, of course. Let's see. So baseball is talking a little bit about another option that has come up that they're discussing. Hunter, we talked we talked Grapefruit League and Cactus League.
Yeah.
Splitting them that way. Now, have you seen the new proposal?
I've not seen the new proposal.
3 divisions,
Okay.
and that's
That's it?
They haven't said whether or not there's going to be a DH or not. I would imagine it's all DH if you're going to do 3 divisions. But the 3 divisions are going to be East.
Bat the 8 field
I
players.
know. This is our
I
chance
have
to get
solved
it in, Hunter.
everything. I have solved
You've
everything.
you've talked to us about that, hadn't you?
Yes.
The 8
Yes.
batters. Yeah, Hunter. I'm. They've got to. They're going to figure that out. I guess announce that part coming up soon. I wanted to read you the divisions real quick.
So everybody's. So there's no, like you're saying, there would be no NLAL.
No.
There would just be 3 divisions, and they would split the teams up
and they would do a
evenly.
seeded tournament.
And, okay, that's what I was about to ask. How would they have the playoff system?
They
set
haven't
up?
said how many teams yet, but it would be a seeded tournament, whether
Okay.
that's 8, 12, or 16.
How many
I don't
already
know.
make it? 8.
Well, there was 5, and then they just add, wasn't they
They
going
just
to add
they were
one
going to add one.
or 2 this year? Was it 1? So 10 or 12. I think they were going to the NFL type thing.
Because that's what
Then the
that's
NFL
what
had
everybody
one.
was in arms about. Is they're like, oh, everybody's going to start getting in with losing records, and because I think they were just setting it up where only the 1 seed got a bye, like the highest seeding got a bye. I don't know. We have the internet. We can always find it.
I'm trying that right now.
Yes, I'm just trying to sit here and think if they went to a seeding system. I mean, to me, it would probably have to mirror what the NFL's doing. If you're only going to have 3 divisions,
3 divisions: West, Central, and East.
makes sense.
So
That makes 100% sense.
in the East are your Braves.
Yeah.
No. Braves are in the Central.
What?
Yep. Here's your East. It's mostly Northeast,
Oh.
except
Except Tampa Bay?
in Miami.
Florida.
It's the Northeast in Florida.
That's it.
It's the Northeast in Florida.
Wow.
I guess they're going
They
along.
do Baltimore.
Are we going along voting districts in this? Blue and red.
Well, now I'm confused because does this mean they're going to allow travel?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not just going to be held up in Arizona.
The
or
players,
Florida.
including your hero Mike Trout, were mad that they weren't going to be playing home games and staying with their families. The players did not want to be living in hotels for the year, is what they were saying.
Well, that makes sense. I can get behind that.
So
Living in a
they're
hotel would be pretty bad.
3 centralized locations is what they're going to do.
No. It's just 3 divisions, and
you're traveling within that year.
What
division.
they're doing is they're making everything regional, so you have less travel. So it's Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Nationals, Orioles, Phillies, Pirates, Blue Jays, and Florida. Out west,
in Florida, which is Tampa Bay and Miami.
Out west, it's Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Houston, Seattle, and California.
Got it. All the LA and Oakland.
How many? I forgot how many total teams is in MLB. Is it 32?
30.
30. So they got 2 less than NFL.
Right. Mm-hmm. So in the Central,
what do they have it broken up to then?
I was trying to think in my
6 divisions
mind.
of 5.
6 divisions. Okay.
I was thinking you were talking about 3 divisions.
No,
overall.
I'm talking about right now.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
talking
going
about
3
right
divisions
now.
of 10.
Because it's 3 divisions.
Okay,
of 10.
that's what I was trying to.
It's
Okay.
6 of 5. They're going 3
of 10.
of 10.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
I don't see.
So
they
the-
should follow this as going forward.
So in the Central, Cubs,
I'd be fine with it.
White Sox, Brewers, Cardinals, Royals, Reds, Indians, Twins, Braves, and Tigers.
That division is actually a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be, because Cleveland is good, the Twins are good. Isn't Milwaukee in there? Milwaukee's good. Chicago's good. Atlanta's good.
It's
and
basically
St. Louis is good.
Let's see, they kicked out. Somebody from the Central Division had to end up in somewhere else.
They had to probably end up in the West.
and then the Braves ended up in the Central.
They probably put the Texas teams.
Pirates.
Oh, Pirates.
Pirates got moved to it's basically the divisions are set East, Central. Instead of just putting them in those divisions, they switched Pittsburgh and Atlanta. So Atlanta will be jumping out of the East to the Central, and Pittsburgh will be moving from the Central to the East.
So essentially, Atlanta's doing the most travel out of any team in the Central. I'm pretty sure the only team, Atlanta, the only team that they're going to be close to in that division would probably be St. Louis.
Let's see.
Where's the teams at on?
Shit, Hunter, you
What
might be
website
right.
are you on?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm on USA Today.
Okay, because it's not shown on ESPN.
Yeah.
Atlanta, it seems like to me, has just been now the focal point besides maybe the Northeast teams traveling down
But
to
who was
Florida.
the closest team before?
Washington.
I mean, that's
And
still,
no,
What about
Miami.
Baltimore? Where's
Miami.
Baltimore at?
Miami's not the closest. No.
It's not closer than Washington, D.C.?
Miami's an 8-hour drive from Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida. Hold on.
No, I'm just saying, you know good and well these teams are not driving.
Well,
first
right.
of all,
I mean, we could put them in the old buses.
put them in the
Farm
Greyhounds.
league them. Yeah. Farm league them. That would be
So if you're
awesome,
just
wouldn't it?
talking airtime, the Braves have probably the worst travel schedule besides maybe
I mean, I don't know.
the teams in Texas
see
going
if
to the
it'll tell me.
west, going to California.
Shit. I did not want to do that. I've hit some type of button on my
Oh
map.
God,
that
you're
I
going
did-
down a rabbit hole.
It went to 100. You ever did a flyover? I've never seen that button in my life.
I've never done a flyover.
Yeah, me neither. So we're going to go to St. Louis, and then we're going to go from Atlanta,
St. Louis.
Georgia, to St. Louis. All right, 8-hour drive. I'm betting
But
that
they're
might be
flying.
the slow. I know that, Hunter, but damn,
You can't just click on something that says fly.
no.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
I know.
You could try
I don't know.
flights, Atlanta to St. Louis flight time. But I mean, drive. I know they're not driving, but I was
Okay.
looking the shortest distance.
All
I
right,
was just
fine.
trying to figure out which
Okay.
is shorter for you.
That's fine.
Not flying. All right, let's try. You said Baltimore, no, Washington. I guess that was where the Nationals play at exactly. Washington in D.C. Is that what they're gonna? I don't know anything. I don't know where they
I don't
play.
know if they're in. I don't know if they're in DC because a lot of those sports teams might claim DC, but they play just outside the
Right,
district.
that's why I was. I didn't know if you knew exactly.
I don't know exactly where the
address.
Nationals play.
St. Louis is actually an hour and 25 minutes closer than the Nationals.
Well, I'll just say flight time from Atlanta to St. Louis about an hour 30.
I can't find the team, so
Zach's
It's
just lost.
Zach, as simple as you can be. East, all the East teams,
Yeah.
Central, and West, except they traded the Braves for the Pirates.
and no National American League has nothing to do with it at all.
Nothing.
No. No.
So basically, they got Chicago
Tampa's
and Atlanta.
probably the closest place
Probably.
to Atlanta.
So how they're probably going to do this then is, are they still going to try and get in 162 games?
Right at this point,
This
yes.
is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Miami's 10 hours from Atlanta, so St. Louis is
Why would you not just play it like 100 and just nick 62 games?
because the players want to be paid for 162.
Still paying for 162.
No, the owners
not
ain't
getting the
paying
rev-
them for
they're not getting the
The
revenue
owners
in.
ain't paying them for 162. That's the issue. But yeah, Hunter, I'm not sure why they would just why they would send the two Florida teams.
Because I want you to think about it. What is it? By the time we get into this, because when are they hoping to get baseball started again? Probably mid-May. And even if that's the case, it might be closer to June. They will have been 2 months into a season, and then you're going to start up at game 1?
All right, you ready, Hunter?
Yeah, tell me.
According to USA Today, or this is NBC, the best case scenario at the moment would be for baseball to restart in late May, play 140 game regular season that bleeds into October.
So they cut 22 games, and they still make it. Wait, the regular season will go into October?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I like October baseball being strictly playoff time.
The regular season lasted more than a few days in October. Hasn't happened since 2001. In the final month of the season, that was paused because of the September 11th attacks. In an ideal situation, the regular season will lose 2 months and only 22 games. So how would they cram in 140 into 4.5 months? Talking about, of course, double headers. It's possible the postseason could be expanded to 14 teams like the NFL's new setup instead of the 10 they're in now. So this is the discussions they're having for baseball.
I think I'd be fine with that. 14 teams isn't a playoff because I think we can all sit here and say you'd much rather see more teams in a playoff than regular season games.
To me, it's baseball. It's not like it's football where there's so many games in baseball to why would you rather watch
game 150?
Exactly, 150 between the Royals and Indians instead of game one of Royals and Indians in a playoff game. Right. To me, that it just makes way more sense to have more playoff teams and more games. People are saying you're going to dilute the champion. The team with the best record in baseball hardly ever wins the championship.
Oh yeah, right, 100%.
I mean, they almost never win it. And I could pull that up in a sec too to be more precise.
There's a reason why in baseball, unlike the NBA and football, very rarely do we now have the champions repeating from the year before. Just 100%. There's a reason why it doesn't happen. It's because it's baseball. Just there are so many X factors that can come into play, and all it takes is one team's bats to be hotter than the next one, and then you can move on. Or maybe your starting pitcher comes out there, and you think he's your ace, and he ends up being a starter. I'm sorry, he comes out there and pulls a Clayton Kershaw, and just chokes whenever you think he's going to be a starter. So I don't know. That's just something that I think baseball should look into at the same time. Going out there and cutting down the games, but giving us more playoff baseball. So I think that would be fine. Right. Zach, do you think that's something that they really should look into? And would this be the year to test that theory?
They can test a lot of stuff this year. It don't matter if it's baseball, NASCAR, football, online stuff. Everything's getting a test run this year. It doesn't matter, what genre you're in or anything. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited that these things are starting to open up. I'm itching for baseball. It's been a long time since I've been a fan of baseball, and I caught a little bit of it last year at the end of the year. And I really liked this Braves team after I got to watch them. I hadn't watched in a while.
Right.
So I'm good with the 100 games. I'm good with the 3-team division. I'm interested to see if and when they put fans in the stands, how they'll implement everything that they implement, because they need revenue coming in. Obviously, they're not getting a big percent of their revenue from people in the stands and concessions. They're getting it from their TV deals. But I want everything to open back up to where the fan experience is back. You're just not watching on television. Eventually, I want to get Judah down to a major league game at some time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. I'm excited for NASCAR coming up, Coca-Cola 600.
Mm-hmm.
And there won't be no fans there either. But
You're just ready for stuff to come
I'm
back.
ready for something.
You're just
I'm
like
ready to watch
everybody
them.
else.
And I've enjoyed watching some of the stuff on TV that they played. It's older stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm ready to get it started, ready to see what's going to happen. And we talked about multiple times in here on they need to nix the 160 game season anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and go to the 100 game season. And Hunter was basically asking, this is a good test run for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, outstanding. I
I
love
think
it.
this is something
really
that
love
baseball needs to do is, so they said they're going to cut it to 140.
Mm-hmm.
They're cutting out I think maybe the first 22 or whatever.
Yeah.
Look, that's fine. But I think they need to look at like the demographic, or not quite the demographic. They need to look at ratings and see how that does now that there's lesser games. And if it goes up, like viewership goes up, I think viewership is going to go up just because people are ready for sports to come back.
And nothing else on
And there's
TV.
nothing on
And
TV
we
else.
talked
I
about
agree.
this too with if we took baseball and football and we tried to analyze both of them. Kevin's mentioned this before. You can't afford to lose too many games in football.
No.
What's
No.
think about it. There's 160. It's easy. It's 1 to 10.
10%.
So for a football game, it's 1 out of every 10 games that you play baseball, and
They can lose 10. And so they can lose 50 games. That's like running an 11-5 team.
5 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
11-5. And in
That's it.
football, that's a great record. And you're sitting there going, they lost 50 games. But it's just, it's
50
You're
games.
right. It's a little bit of overkill. And I think Kevin's mentioned this before, is that originally they had to do it because they had to pay the players. Now they got TV deals.
Yeah.
So their money's from TV deals and not as much from.
And these owners are
businesses.
billionaires anyways. I mean, act like that's just, you still wouldn't make that kind of
Yeah.
revenue. You might make more revenue because more people would come to the ball games because they wouldn't be like, oh, don't worry, there's a game on 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. Yeah, I can make that. I'll just skip out on work.
I mean, even I can't speak of other stadiums other than watching them on TV, especially Tampa.
They're empty.
But you can't. I mean, you couldn't never go to an Atlanta game and it not be half empty in the new stadium when they increased the seating. And when they increased the seating, what they did is when they built all these new ballparks, they put more seats in them, and then they raised the prices to pay for the new ballparks and the new players. Well, then the TV deals came in, and people were like, if you're going to a Panthers game, family 4 in the upper deck, it still costs $400 almost. It just depends on where you're sitting and everything. You can still sit in the upper deck for $500,000 for one Panthers game, and then or you could sit at home and watch it on TV or listen to the radio. So yeah,
And you get
fans
just as
have
good of a
different-
sight. You get. What would you much rather do? Sit at home on your couch and be able to see everything, or go sit in the nosebleed section and have to squint down there to see ants running on the
Also,
field?
for an example, Hunter, when you say, I know the fans are paying and what they're doing, so they've struck NASCAR and everybody. They've struck this balance to where if you can get the TV money in, you don't have to. What you're saying is you don't have to worry so much about the ticket sales and that. And I think some of them, there's going to be pay cuts and losses in different places, obviously. But just the sheer logistics of it, the Hornet Stadium, it has 19,000 people in it.
I've never seen it with 19,000
Well,
people in it.
besides that, yes.
I've never.
When the Tar Heels played there, that was full.
Okay, well, let's say when another team comes in
And if
and
the
like
Tar
a
Heels is
tournament,
playing on college, it's full out
Yeah.
in the lobby.
Lakers fill it up too. So, the sheer numbers of it, even in a football game, Panthers hold 60,000 people. They get 1 million viewers. How many more people are tuning in? And so that's what they're getting the money from the TV revenue and the TV viewers and the advertising. I 100% agree.
I just think this is a great time for baseball to look at that and say, our viewership went up with fewer games.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you're going to have to bring it to Manfred's attention and somehow convince that old fuddy-duddy who's stuck in his ways that this is really the way you should go. You should make the games more meaningful. Because I'm serious. I think we can all agree. Game 150, like you said, a game between Kansas City and Cleveland, is meaningless. It really is. It's meaningless, especially if one team is a bottom feeder and the other team has already solidified themselves in the playoffs. No, Calvin. I'm not. Not at all. No, I'm not talking about you whatsoever.
How did that come up?
I think he heard me call somebody a fuddy-duddy.
Oh.
I'm not talking about Calvin. I'm talking about Manfred. Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner. But, nobody wants to see the bottom feeder play a top-tier team for the 17th time. Nobody does. But in football, if you've got two heavyweights getting ready to go up against each other, and the only other time you would see it is when you get to the playoffs. That's why it was the 49ers and Baltimore game this year had such high ratings, because everybody was saying that, the only other time we could see this is a Super Bowl preview. Both these teams are so good. Meanwhile, you've got the Braves over here getting ready to play the Nationals for the second time on the season and say, don't worry, they got to play them 14 other times this year. If you don't tune in for this, you're not missing much. So I just think that sports could take a lot. I know money-wise they're not going to do it, or paying salary-wise at least, but they can learn a lot from what football does.
They're still starting this dumbass idea, though, that you might be able to pick your opponent instead of just doing it by record.
No, stupid
Like,
shit.
why would that even be an option? The other thing they're talking about, another one, Hunter, is neutral site playoff games. Neutral site World Series, maybe.
I think we did talk about the neutral site World Series. I like that.
I think that would be awesome. It'd be a boom for whatever economy. I mean, that's 7 games maybe instead of just 2 or 3. Like in basketball, it's tough. Like, football, you have the whole week. Everybody goes down into the media. The media would love going to World Series week.
Yeah.
Come on.
World Series Media Week.
They would, that would be the greatest week.
Because even then, couldn't Charlotte technically be in a run for that to host the World Series? I know the stadium's not big enough, but if they were able to just make the stadium bigger, then I know we don't have a pro team, but then you would have these, other cities would be in the play.
What do you think about early November weather in Charlotte baseball?
I don't think it would be bad.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be too cold.
And I don't think it would be hot. Games out there.
I don't think it would be, and it wouldn't be too hot. I mean, here's the thing. Do you want November in New York, or do you want November in Charlotte?
What's tough about baseball, just playing in general, is they play in so many different weathers as far as temperature-wise. They don't play when it rains or snows, of course. But temperature-wise, like hitting a baseball at 95-degree weather or 100-degree weather is totally different than 50 degrees.
The air is so much lighter in the heat than it is when it's cold. It's just dense.
I mean, even in playoff games now,
you can hear it when it hits the bat. Yeah. Just the difference.
See, I've been wanting them to reduce the games now so they'll have more playoff games. I actually wanted them to bump the season out of November. I don't want a single game in November. Well, my birthday is the 28th, and Halloween's the 31st. I know it can get cold that week, especially in New York or somewhere else.
Boston.
I've been in Chapel Hill, and it's been freezing on Halloween. So, just to me, I would rather them get back up in October, less games, and I think that's better for everyone. And you're right. This is a good.
So if you cut the 20 games and say we started on time, which, what was it, April 1st this year, or it was close to the start.
Usually March 29th.
Yeah, it's close to opening day. Is almost games. Opening day is literally almost April Fool's Day. Well, that was a big April Fool's Day to everybody this year. Thought it was going to be opening day. Psych! It didn't happen. So if you might take the 20 games away, so far they said that you'd be about 2 months of baseball. So if the playoffs were to start in October in a regular full baseball season. Well, let's just say we take away the 2 months worth of games. You back that up. That's what, July? I think that's a good start.
I think
July playoffs into September.
I think anything.
They're not too cold. Fall might just be around the corner, so you might still have some warm days. I don't see why not. Baseball for 4 months and then playoffs. That's fine. I don't need 6 months of baseball and then another 2 months of playoffs. That's just as bad as the NBA is.
What cracks me up is about baseball Twitter, and I really see it mostly from Braves fans because I'm more friends with local Braves fans.
That's fine. Go ahead.
It is the fan reaction to every single game. Mm-hmm. So again, 1 out of every 10 games is equal to a football game. So I can see it, having certain reactions to a football game. Mm-hmm. But just over the years, like, for you to get mad at game 83 and over a move the coach made or someone did something, like, there's so many games.
It's like dude, you
baseball guys drive me crazy with that.
You just got mad at a percentage.
Put that guy in today.
You just got mad at less than a 1% game that mattered. Like, I don't care. So, I mean, get mad over a 10-game season and they do something stupid in game 4.
So if a baseball game equals basically 1/10 is 60 minutes of football game, 6 minutes of an NFL game, right?
Yeah.
So 6 minutes in a game.
That's
Stay
like
with
getting
that.
mad at the end of the New Orleans Saints playoff game. That's it.
If Trout only helps his team 8 wins out of, well, hell, they only win 80 games or 70 some games, but out of 160 games, that's about 5%. So what's 5% of 6 minutes? 25 seconds.
That's all that Mike Trout
So
makes a
Mike
difference.
Trout helps the Angels one play a year better than anyone else, according to that.
And he's making
according to that fuzzy
$400
math.
million.
According to that fuzzy math. That's just comparative, folks. From baseball to football, that's how much a difference that you could say that guy makes when you do the math out is such a little comparatively. That's how much baseball. That's how much more baseball they play. It's insane. All right, a couple of comments, Hunter.
Yes.
Well, I lost them because Dad came in and started recording commercials. But anyway, Nelson said that only 3. We talked about the NFL #1 picks in the Hall of Fame. Only 3 Major League Baseball overall #1 picks have been in the Hall of Fame.
Only 3.
Only 3. Can you name them?
I promise you I can't.
You should be able to name 2.
2. Well, one's... I really can't. No.
Huh?
I can't.
Who? Just one.
No, I can't.
Only 3.
Because, see, I don't know, I don't pay attention to the Major League Baseball draft because
Right.
there's a damn 100 rounds.
Right.
That's just as long as the baseball
Only
season.
3 baseball.
Players have been drafted 1 overall.
Right.
Made
Chipper
the
Jones.
Hall of Fame. There's one.
Okay. I was going to say Chipper, but I didn't want to be stupid in case he went second or third.
Definitely wasn't Todd Van Poppel.
No.
You know who it could have been if they don't keep him out for
2 of them.
Alex
PEDs.
Rodriguez.
Chipper should be in.
He's not in there,
It's
but
not
I was
it.
saying if that's what I was going to
Not
say.
yet.
If it ain't for if PEDs keep him
Griffey
out, he
Jr.
will be.
There you go.
Number 2.
Griffey. Well,
Now the third one, very debatable whether he should be in the Hall of Fame. Very debatable
Rafael Palmeiro.
whether he should be in the Hall of Fame. It's not Rafi. Hey Judah, I get hugs. Zach's actually wearing a Griffey jersey.
I got my Griffey jersey. This one came in last week.
Ask him about that.
This
What's
is
up?
Cooperstown.
Here, don't
Cooperstown.
come. Don't
This
come.
is the
hug me
Cooperstown
right now.
edition Griffey.
Say hey to everybody. Say hey. Just say hey.
So hey, be nice.
Hey.
There you go.
To
Thank you.
Judah Mayhue. Zach, we need to have a. I was thinking earlier.
It's on, we're on the.
What do you think about
on
a
TV.
before we go live, like maybe one Wednesday, Zach, before Hunter gets here? We're gonna go live about 1:30 and just have kids talk.
kids talk.
Like my kids, they'll just talk about random stuff, and it's just who knows what they're about to say. There goes Judah.
You might get a poopy head out of mine. I mean, that's what'll usually come out. I was ready to say, "Hey, poopy head."
So the third one,
Yeah.
Harold Baines. No, Reynolds. Harold Reynolds. Sorry.
Baines has a lot better
Either one of them.
stats than I ever thought he would when you look at him.
Right.
Harold Reynolds,
No, but I think the name you brought up is going to be the fourth.
Zach missed the Votto.
He did
talk
miss the
from
Votto talk.
Monday.
But I think the
Joey Votto.
Yeah.
I will read it out to you in a minute.
The fourth name that you said, though. Yes, he's going to make it as long as PEDs don't keep him out. It's Rodriguez. A-Rod. As long as they don't hold PEDs against him.
Was he #1 pick? I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure he was 1-1. If I'm not mistaken, I mean...
Well, this says that Reynolds was in the first round, 2nd overall of June draft secondary. So, squeaky, I don't know if that's correct or not. I did say Reynolds. Dad took the screen away from me, so I'm not 100% sure if you did say Reynolds. I want to make sure. He just walked out. I'm going to go check it. But it's showing Reynolds as a first round 2nd pick. But either way, I do want to make sure. Harold Reynolds is in the Hall of Fame.
Alex
right?
Rodriguez was in fact 1-1. A-Rod was in fact 1-1. So, like I said, unless PEDs keep him out, then we're looking at a 4th, or maybe he will be the 3rd if he is wrong with this, but a 4th player to ever go 1-1 and make it to the Hall of Fame. I think that just is a testament to everybody else. It's like, just because you go 1st overall doesn't mean you're going to have a great career. You might have been spectacular leading up to it, but just because you go #1 doesn't mean that your skills are going to translate.
It was Baines, not Reynolds. Reynolds was picked 2nd. It was Baines on the comment. I want to make sure I get that get that right.
So yeah, I think we'll have 4 1-1s.
Either way, I don't know anybody named Harold that should be in the Hall of Fame. You know anybody, Zach? Yeah, Baines' batting's way better than Reynolds. Reynolds was like 250 something. I was like,
Baines had
goodness.
pretty good numbers.
Baines 289, batting average 384, home runs 1,600 RBIs. You know, for the folks that like the new age stats, Hunter, I was looking at my Sosa and McGuire poster in here. It's got all the home runs. And it's very interesting looking at it because I remember that season that Sosa got the MVP, even though McGuire set the record and broke the record.
Right.
So McGuire breaks the home run record, sets the record, and doesn't get MVP because Sosa's team made the playoffs. Now remember, I've told y'all this about the from 2000 until 2010, maybe 95ish.
Yeah.
Your team had to make the playoffs, or you did not get MVP. That was the thing. So they held that against the Cardinals a couple of times. McGuire lost out on one. Pujols lost out on one when the Giants made the playoffs one year. He actually had better numbers than Bonds. But going back to those, crap, I looked over at Harold Baines, lost my train of thought. What was the last thing I said right before that, Hunter?
Something about Bonds or
Pujols
had better
McGuire.
numbers.
McGuire's OPS, you know how they like, what is it, on base plus slugging?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was
Something like
was
that.
1,200. And Sosa's was, I think, 9-something. And McGuire's got it. The strikeouts, Sosa struck out 9, I think. Hold on. Let me go. I'm going to get to exact numbers because it's very interesting real quick. Again, go back.
Go back. Well, I just think baseball's got some hard soul searching to do, and this is the season that they can do it. 100%, just plain and simple. I think this is the season that baseball does some soul searching and figures out things that they could make different going forward.
Now I got it. All right, Sosa batted 135 more times than McGuire. He had 135 more at bats and had 4 less home runs at him. RBIs, Sosa actually had more RBIs than McGuire. Walks, for you walk fans, here you go, Hunter. Sosa only 73 walks. Mark McGuire, 162 walks. He had more walks than hits, more walks than RBIs, and Sosa struck out 15 times more than McGuire. Stolen bases, of course, Sosa stole 18, McGuire 1. On base percentage, McGuire was 470, Sosa 370. On base slugging, Sosa 650, McGuire 750. So added together, McGuire about 12, and then Sosa barely got into 1,000 on the OPS. Batting average is 308 to 299. So, that was kind of a controversial one. Zach, here's the one from Joey Votto the other day. Is he a Hall of Famer, Zach?
No.
So a lot of people think, and that's one way to do it, Hunter, is just ask. Don't even look at the stats. Don't even look at the thing. Just ask people in the room, is so-and-so a Hall of Famer? And go from there. And a lot of people say if you even have to ask the question,
He's not.
that they're not. So this guy online, Zach, said, Joey Votto, if his career ended today, Votto would be a Hall of Famer with 284 home runs and 1,800 hits. Harold Baines has 100 more home runs and 1,000 more hits, and people don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Here's his argument, Zach. You're going to love it. You're just going to love it. He would be those aren't Hall of Fame worthy numbers, but among the 900 players with at least 5,000 plate appearances through the age 35, his 151 WRC plus ranks 30th all time. Do you have any idea what I just said to you?
No.
Did I make any sense? Now he continues. Yes, he only has 1,800 hits. It's part because of how often he walks. He has the 16th highest walk percentage of those players, and his on-base percentage is 18th best, 2 points below Mickey Mantle. Then we get this joy. Do you know what Jaws is? JAWS, all caps, me neither. By the Jaws standard, Zach, Votto 54.4 is 4.9 points below the average for first baseman. But I'm not a huge Joxx fan because of outliers like Lou Gehrig. So we want to use advanced statistics, but I don't like them.
We want to go Joey Votto to get in, but Lou Gehrig can't. What?
And if you're using B War 7 to just look at his peak performance, then Votto ranks 9th there. Do you have any idea what I said about any of that?
I think
when I said he has 1,000 less hits than Harold Baines and 100 home runs less than Harold Baines, Hunter, should I follow anything up with, tell me what his WRC is?
No.
Tell me what his Jaws is. Are they going to put that on the plaques now? Joey Votto he only had 1,000 hits and 100 home runs in his career, but he had a heck of a Jaws.
See, and this is what I wanted to see too as well. You take somebody that throws all these statistics out there, these advanced analytics, which to me is just, I want to put numbers together and I pulled them out of my ass, just 100%. That's exactly what I think they do when they do that. I want you to ask him and be like, okay, well, let's do a comparison. You mean to tell me that Joey Votto should be a Hall of Famer right now if he ended his career today, but they still won't let Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame and he's the all-time hits leader? And then be like, all right, now I want you. He's got 3,000 more hits more than Votto. He probably has more home runs than Votto too, just by looking at how many Votto even has. And I want you then to pull out your advanced analytics on what Pete Rose did. And if you tell me he's not a Hall of Famer due to advanced analytics, but Joey Votto is, then that just shows you how flawed your advanced analytics really is.
Pete Rose, or I about to call him Charlie Hustle, I guess I could, had 4,200 hits.
Wow.
So it's not 3,000 more, it's 2,500 more.
Oh, well. Still.
Basically.
How many does he have more home runs than Votto?
Hunter, if you take 1,800.
I know he was a contact hitter, but.
Home runs, he's got less than him, 160. Okay. He's got a 303 batting average.
He's got 160, but how many does Votto have?
280.
Okay. So he's got about 120 less.
That his job wasn't hit home runs though.
I know.
Votto, that's his only calling card. He didn't hit that many of them.
Yeah. I know. That's what I'm saying.
280. How many years he played? 15.
I said
13.
I said he was a contact hitter. But if you're gonna do all these advanced analytics and you show advanced analytics against Pete Rose and Joey Votto, and somehow you justify that Joey Votto needs to be a Hall of Famer over the all-time hit leader that nobody's even come close to, I'm sorry, then your advanced analytics is not as accurate as you think it is in portraying how good a player really is.
Hey, I got a stat for you. Zach, it's a good stat, too.
It's a good stat.
Only once in Major League history has a player hit 40 home runs but did not have a multi-home run game.
Only once
in Major League history has a player hit 40 homers but did not have a multi-home run game in that season. And it's just random guess, and it's just random to anybody probably. But the answer to that stat, was in 1999. Mike Pizza.
Mike Piazza.
Piazza was the only player in Major League history to have a 40 home run season with no multi-home run games, if you can follow along on that, folks, at home. Zach, I'm going to read you some names. You tell me if they're Hall of Famers, okay? Hank Aaron.
Yes.
Babe Ruth.
Yes.
Why can't I hear Zach?
Yes. That better?
Yeah, A-Rod.
Yes.
Albert Pujols.
Yes.
Bonds.
Yes.
Lou Gehrig.
Yes.
Stan Musial.
Yes.
Ty Cobb.
Yes.
Jimmy Fox.
Yes.
Eddie Murray.
Yes.
Willie Mays.
Yes.
I don't know if you know who Mel Ott is.
I do. Yes,
okay.
He definitely is.
Yastrzemski.
Yes.
Ted Williams.
Yes.
King Griffey Jr.
Yes.
Palmero.
No.
Dave Winfield.
He's on the line, but I'm going to say yes. My opinion.
Manny Ramirez.
Absolutely.
And y'all don't think you know who Al Simmons is. What about
I do not.
Frank Robinson?
Yes.
All right. So out of all those I named, you said Rafi, no, Winfield on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top 20 RBI leaders in Major League Baseball history. And all I get told all the time is RBIs don't matter and don't mean nothing. Now,
and I got a personal thing on Rafi.
It means something if you get on base. It means something if you score. But if you're the guy who knocks a double off the wall or hits the guy in, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Is Rafi a steroid thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you could put, you could put A-Rod in on that too. But I think A-Rod was good enough without it.
Let's say no steroids. Bonds in there in that list too. So let's say no steroids, no nothing, whatever they did, you can't do it. I can even go on down the list. Ortiz is 22nd, Wagner 23rd, Beltre 24th, Frank Thomas 25th, Reggie Jackson 26th, Jim Thome 27th, Cal Ripken, Miguel Cabrera, Gary Sheffield, Sammy Sosa, Tony Perez, Ernie Banks, Harold Baines, and Chipper Jones. That's the 35 all-time RBI leaders, and how many of them would you say no? 1 to 5 tops, and most of that's on roids.
But I think Rafi, because I don't think he would have made it without him.
George Brett, Mike Schmidt, Andre Dawson, Beltran's at 41, Hornsby at 42. Like that's something to me. Like that's the guy that you want on my team, as opposed to I don't know.
Joe Votto.
All right, Hunter, let's move over to a couple other things today out of baseball. So there was your baseball news. Let's jump into NASCAR for just a second to talk about that real quick. Like I said, May 17th, Zach, in Darlington. Maybe another race that week in Darlington or another place. So that's the ideas on that. You feel NASCAR should be in a good place to as a sport that can restart?
Absolutely. They were doing good enough with iRacing that it don't matter if the fans are in the stands or not. You don't hear them. You don't see them that much. They only pan them if at the end of the race for the most part when they doing the checker flag, but they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's something that they should bring back, NASCAR. And I agree with what you said, and I didn't think of it that way. But you can use iRacing as a good set marker. You use how many people tune in and actually watched it. Mm-hmm. So if you just brought the racing back, whether you allow fans or not, they're proving through iRacing that people are still interested in watching right now. They're dying for some sort of sports content, and that's what they can bring. Bringing back NASCAR, obviously. If you bring NASCAR back, I think this would be a perfect time for NASCAR to do it because, like we said with baseball, with nothing being on, you're going to attract eyes that usually don't watch NASCAR because they're looking for some sort of sports action to get into, something fresh, something new, instead of watching The Office for the 6th time on Netflix. They're looking for something to watch, sports fans. So 110% I'm behind this. I think NASCAR maybe could have done this. I know the problem is getting the states to allow them to get in there to go to the tracks, but I think they should have really pressured these states a week or two earlier, maybe even a month earlier, just because it is such a isolated sport. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of, they're just in their cars, and the only kind of physical, or not physical, like human interaction that they have is with their crew chiefs, which is prior to the race.
And they got
masks on. And then the pit crew themselves just interacting with each other. But even then, they're covered up, with helmets. They've got gloves.
The closest place would be pit crew members with each other in the garage and on pit road. That's probably your biggest issue with that. Cooper's they've even discussed having seating with distancing. And I've been to a few races here the last few years. You can do it. They don't sell out to jam packed, but some of those fans that are in the middle around the start finish line aren't going to be happy having to spread out more. But you can. It is feasible to do it. They have sections now. I believe maybe if you did allow fans, the RV sections may be more preferable with some people. In turn 2, they got a spot you can pull your RV up to the wall. In turn 2, you can sit. You're sitting in your driver's seat of your RV 3 feet away from looking over the wall. That's at Charlotte. And so I think NASCAR's got so many different options. So Zach Newman says he's coming back.
I've seen that.
And Matt Kenseth is coming back out of retirement to take Kyle Larson's spot. And they have both been granted eligibility for the playoff series races. Usually when you miss races, you'll get knocked out of the competition, but the waivers were given to these guys. Playoff eligibility hinges on drivers competing in all 36 races and maintaining a top 30 ranking throughout the season of the point standings. The waiver removes the first of those requirements. The drivers qualify for one of the 16 berths by either winning a regular season race or being among the top in points. So basically, if they win a race, they'll get into the playoffs. Is what they're saying. So Kenseth joining Chip Ganassi, number 42 car, and of course Newman will be returning back to his car in just a few weeks. That's just outstanding news all around on that. All right, Hunter, I got some news you did not think we were going to talk about today. Probably.
Okay.
Charlotte Checkers hockey.
Ooh, I didn't think we were going to talk about that at all.
Did you see the news?
I did not.
It's not good news.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Hurricanes cutting ties with the Checkers, moving all the good players and coaches to Chicago.
What?
Yeah, I knew I was going to piss you off with that one.
What? Wait a minute. So they're cutting ties with the Checkers. Does that mean that they're just dropping them as basically their affiliate feeder team? Or does that mean they're taking the team and moving them to Chicago?
No, Checkers will be there.
Okay, so they'll still be in Charlotte.
They just won't be their affiliate.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
They're taking all their players and
that was one of the better things in the state of North Carolina when it comes to your semi-pro team. Not semi. Well, they're still professionals, but they're a minor league system because the Crawdads and the Knights. Well, we don't have a professional baseball team for them to feed anyway, so they're leaving. They're going out of town.
So the Checkers will be moving to the Florida Panthers affiliate.
That's
instead of
dumb.
the Hurricane. But basically two men can't get along between the two franchises and
the owners.
Well, it ain't not even them. It might be the
GM
presidents.
Well, all I know is the Carolina Hurricanes have actually been on the come up, and a lot of that has been some of the young players that they've been able to get through their feeder system in Charlotte with the Checkers. And for you to cut ties and what they basically said to get better players in Chicago. You were already building a championship caliber squad. You made the playoffs last year when nobody really thought you were going to have that great of a season due to how young you were. You added some, and I know people are probably like, wow, Hunter, you actually know a little bit about hockey? Just a little bit for me to even speak on this. But still, you were building a championship contending team, or at least a playoff contending team every year through this farm system, your team in Charlotte, and maybe some moves that you made at trades and free agencies. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Because not only that, this is also a great opportunity.
Oh, that's mine.
That's yours. That's really
mine. Where's it come from?
Somebody's phone was making a noise. Yeah, it's yours. But back to what I was saying. The Checkers, I think this also can hurt fan base. Right. Maybe not people directly in Raleigh who are fans of the Hurricanes and are going to go to the games in general. But, Charlotte fans and all of us on the eastern part of North Carolina, the western part of North Carolina that can't go out east because it's a 3.5, 4-hour drive to Raleigh to go and watch the Hurricanes play. We're watching players here in Charlotte that are affiliated with your pro team. That's why I think it would have been good, which we'll probably speak on the Panthers later, but it would have been good if the Panthers drafted Isaiah Simmons.
What it does real quick, Hunter, you're talking about the fans.
Mm-hmm.
It allows folks in Charlotte who might not be fans of the Hurricanes or hockey to get a chance to see that and be a piece of that. And I 100, whether they're with the Panthers, that's nice for the Checkers, but still the fact of, I think that would be like, hey, I would go to a Checkers game and then I would go to Raleigh and see that game being tied together. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and what I mean by that, why I was tying in the Panthers and Isaiah Simmons is because, what is he? He's technically a local boy. I'm not talking about where he was born and raised, but I'm saying he played at Clemson. And a lot of times, even with Charlotte, the Hornets, sometimes when they draft players from Duke or North Carolina, they're in state, they've already got a following with them.
They usually turn out bad.
Well, let's not. I'm not talking about.
Every time we get a Duke or Carolina player, they're horrible for me.
Look, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about how they play. I'm just saying there's already a connection, an emotional connection to them through the fan bases here because they're like, oh, I remember watching him at Duke. I can just drive right down here to Charlotte.
For both y'all's point on the Hornets thing and the draft and the Tar Heels thing, I would rather have mediocre Tar Heel and Duke players on the roster than mediocre guys no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, because at least you'll draw fans.
I mean, right, like
which is that's where I'm going from with why I think it was dumb that the Hurricanes even dropped the Checkers to begin with, because it's like you're already introducing to Western North Carolina hockey in some capacity with the Checkers. And so you're getting them interested in the Checkers, and they might know players from the Checkers. And so with the Checkers being affiliated with the Hurricanes, that's great because then you're just, they might be a fan of that player and think he's really good. Oh, he's going to go play for the hometown professional team. You just gained another fan right there. Instead, now they're going to go and be Florida Panther fans or whatever. I don't know. I think it's dumb. I think it's the dumbest thing that I've heard of really while we've been doing this show because that 110% doesn't, like, you're basically alienating a fan base that you had at one time, which were Charlotte Checkers fans.
I got a lot of friends that are hockey fans, but I'm not one of them.
I think that's what hurts it is the fact it is hockey, because hockey is maybe a third or fourth. I don't want to name it like a tier system, but if you had to go like football, baseball, and basketball are on one tier, so they might be a second tier sport,
right?
That people know of, but they're not actively watching. I know some people do. Some people are huge hockey fans, but in North Carolina at least, it's dominated by what? Panthers. This is still Braves country or whatever baseball team you root for, or Hornets fans. So the Hurricanes, they're battling for a fan base to try and get people interested. Everybody in North Carolina knows who the Panthers are, but not everybody in North Carolina knows we have a professional hockey team.
That's a bunch of my friends that go watch the Checkers.
I know some people.
I mean, I think it's I think they enjoy the small environment, and it's
it is quaint and Bojangles. I'll say this too. I know a lot of people that thought the Checkers were the professional hockey team because they were in Charlotte, and I think the fact that the Hurricanes are located in Raleigh, I think it kind of hurts them because Charlotte. I know it's not the capital, but it is what most people associate North Carolina with. They're like, oh, what area are you from? Most time people on the western part of North Carolina are like, oh, well, I'm just outside of Charlotte. Or if they say where they're from, they're like, oh, we're about this far from Charlotte. And because we do have the Panthers and we do have the Hornets, Charlotte is already on the map for professional sports. So somebody would be like, yeah, I'm going to go watch the Checkers game this week as a hockey team. It's like, oh, is this your professional team? It's like, no, our professional team is in Raleigh. There's no other professional sports team in Raleigh, but our professional team is in Raleigh. It's not in Charlotte. I don't know. I feel like that has hurt the Hurricanes for a while too, but they've got a contract already just to play there at PNC. So I wouldn't see them coming, and definitely not now since they've excommunicated with the Checkers anyways. I was going to say I could see them coming back and just claiming Bojangles Coliseum as theirs, but they're not going to do that now. I just think it was a bad move by an up-and-coming contending team that was using the feeder system to their advantage. That would be like, I'll just use the Astros, and I'm not counting the fact that they were stealing signs. The Astros, their team has been, their feeder system has been really good. Yeah. Because the players that they have, I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, they cheated to win. They've still got a lot of talent. And then not a lot of those players that they traded for. The only one that I don't know if they traded for him or if they paid for him was Justin Verlander. So Verlander is the only one on that team that I know of where I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, he wasn't homegrown in the feeder system for the Astros. But other than that, the Astros are doing a fantastic job with whoever their minor league system is in developing players and getting them ready to the next level. Well, that would be what the Hurricanes just did by cutting off the Checkers, who was one of the reasons they were getting a lot of great young players. That would be the equivalent of the Astros halfway through the build-up to their first World Series, saying we're dropping you as our farm team and we're going to go get somebody else. Yeah, it's like we're producing you major talent and we're going to be part of the reason that you're having success. We're training and coaching up these players, and then the Astros just being like, nah. We can do it on our own or somewhere else with another feeder system. It's not you. It's what we're doing up here. So I think that's just. I know some people are probably thinking, "Wow, I can't believe you guys are talking this much hockey." But it's not that I'm talking hockey. It's the mindset of it. From it's like why would you cut off an in-state feeder team? In-state feeder team. I don't understand. And
All I do is read a headline, Zach.
Yeah.
That's my hockey rant. That's my hockey
I
guy.
go back 1 second before we go into our other stuff. With, when we was talking about baseball a minute ago, he was talking about Joey Votto.
Yeah.
Ric Flair was on Steve Austin's podcast, and Steve Austin made a comment about wrestlers being great. And Ric Flair said, we throw that word around way too much.
Mm-hmm.
He said, somebody being good at what they do doesn't necessitate them being great. He said, you can be good. You're not great. He said, you should use that word sparingly for certain players, and what you were talking about a minute ago with certain players versus decent players.
Dion has came out recently and said there's a lot of people in the Hall of Fame that shouldn't be there. You look at Dion, you say Hall of Famer, and you look at another guy and be like, is he Dion? If they do that, should there be another level in the Hall of Fame?
Honorable mentions. No,
like Harold Baines isn't the same as Barry Bonds, and Harold Baines is sitting in the Hall of Fame, and Barry Bonds is not. Same thing with Pete Rose and some of these other guys.
You could probably do markers, like markers for different stats, if you wanted to put them in, like we do Mount Rushmore, pass less, where you could have sections for this is the 500 home run club,
right?
Or this, they're Hall of Famers, but this is their genre. This is their Pete Rose with his 4,000 hits when he ever gets in.
Well, Hunter, to answer what Zach's saying, should we just have the top floor be everybody with over 100 WAR? Wait a minute, that's exactly where they'll go, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm
the analytics guys are just.
That's exactly where
this is how I think of WAR right now. I don't think WAR gets anybody in the Hall of Fame now.
I hope it doesn't.
I hope it because then they would have to, because then if you go back and look at all of the guys that are already in the Hall of Fame, some of their WAR might not be great, and then you're going to put somebody else in whose numbers, like real statistic wise, are nowhere close to a Hall of Famers, but their WAR is what got them in.
Our eye test. Your eye test. It goes back to the eye test.
I call them analytics, which is just what you see and the core statistics that they basically built the Hall of Fame off of, which was your home runs, your RBIs, championships. If you were a champion, we can't keep forgetting. I haven't seen Mike Trout get close to a World Series, let alone win a series.
He hasn't won a playoff game. He made the playoffs once and was swept. Not a series, a game.
So, I think
Tony Romo has won more playoff games than Mike Trout.
And that's in football. And they don't even play series in football. Tom Brady has got more playoff wins than some MLB teams.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, I think to answer your question quickly, I think that they could do better with the Hall of Fame by creating certain criteria and just naming the criteria. Because that's one thing that they don't really do. There is no set criteria.
So this title, I got to read this now because it's locally tied to us. I just clicked on one last baseball thing here, and it was one wild record you didn't know for all 30 Major League Baseball teams. So I clicked down for the Braves just for fun. Now, Hunter might not know this name. Zach will when I say it. The Atlanta Braves' weirdest, craziest record, Zach, is owned, actually, by our local Tony Cloninger.
What record is it?
9 RBIs in one game.
Wow.
That's the Braves' team record. Cloninger holds the franchise record for RBIs in a game, but what makes it so special, Hunter, do you know why that's weird?
No.
He's a pitcher. Tony Cloninger got more RBIs in a game than Hank Aaron, Dale Murphy, and Chipper Jones. The pitcher. 9 RBIs in a game. He won 113 in his career, including 24 in 1965. The Braves' final season in Milwaukee, and 66 in Candlestick Park. He hit a grand slam in the first inning and then hit another grand slam in the fourth inning.
Wow.
And he added an RBI single in the 8th and finished off a 17.
Do you want to know what's crazy?
3 complete game victory.
Do you want to know what's crazy? You said I wouldn't know that name. I know his family members.
Do you?
I went
Okay.
to church with his family.
I was wondering. You're from around
Because I had to look. He died in Denver.
Yeah.
I know his son, and I know his grandson, because his grandson helped coach me in baseball for a little while. He helped me when I was trying to learn how to. They asked me to be a catcher one year, and I was like, "Well, I've never catched before." And he was like, "Well, I can teach you how to catch." So, yeah, he was like, "I can teach you how to just be a catcher." So I was like, "All right."
That's a jerk move.
Yeah.
Make the new guy the catcher.
Well, they were just like, it wasn't me starting. It was
Right.
just, it was an if it's an emergency,
Right.
you just the emergency catcher. And I was like, "Well, I've never caught before, but okay."
So that game, Hunter, they won 17-3 through a complete game. Do you think he would have threw a complete game today, up 17-3?
No, they'd have pulled him.
What if he had got his 9th RBI today?
No,
They would have pulled him.
they'd have pulled him. They'd have pulled him real fast.
He finished the season 234, 5 home runs, 23 RBIs. No pitcher has had more RBIs in a season since then. However, Cloninger did not lead the league in home runs that year. Earl Wilson hit 7. So there's your Atlanta Braves, Tony Cloninger stats of the day: 2 grand slams in a game, 9 RBIs in a game in the Candlestick Park, and he's not a hitter, an actual pitcher for the Atlanta Braves and from around the area in Lincoln County here. I want to scroll down and see what the Cardinals says for fun, see if I know anything about this. Probably Tatis hit 2 grand slams in an inning as opposed to in a game. Mark Whitten had 12 RBIs in a game. That might be the one. Yep, that's the one they got with. Actually had 2 players with 12 RBIs. Jim Bottomley. I remember the Whitten game. I was watching that game when he did it. It was just crazy. Let's see. Whitten. Here's Whitten's game, Hunter. First inning grand slam. Second inning he popped up. I mean, in the 4th inning he popped up. In the 6th inning, a 3-run homer. 7th inning, a 3-run homer. And in the 9th inning, a 2-run homer. All in one game. So he had everything but a solo homer in that game. He had 2 3-runs, a grand slam, and a 2-run home run in that game. 4 for 5 in a 15-2 victory. So there's your Cardinals weird stat of the day. I wonder if the Angels has anything about. Let's see if it's Trout. Nope, Nolan Ryan, 383 strikeouts. Yeah, that's a ton. 383 strikeouts.
Didn't try to go for 400.
That's 20 a game in 19 starts. Just to do some simple math if you want to get up to that. 20 a game in 19. I know he probably started 40 games that year. But did Nolan Ryan. All right, Zach, you missed the draft and some more Jordan documentary. We talked Jordan Monday. We'll go a little bit. We'll end the show with that since it's the Last Dance. This thing we can end on Last Dance. How about we go with the draft? Panthers did something I personally didn't know no other team had ever done.
I didn't either.
For years, months, I don't know how many ever long we've been doing the show, I advocate for teams all the time to do what the Panthers is to pick straight defense and sign, sign your special players. But there's no reason every single year, next year, they could go 7 more defensive players. And then the next year, pick 5 linemen. And then in 3 years, you've got your team set and you haven't signed a single free agent or paid a single free agent to play. Then you can sign your Teddy Bridgewaters and your Robbie Andersons and your McCaffreys. That's where they're putting their free agent money in there.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, I agree with you. I was happy that they went all defense because those
You were 31st last year in rushing yards and scoring.
They hit all the needs that they really needed, and we'll see how these guys play out. They got pretty good players, and they supposedly got some players lower than they should have been drafted. You know, like they came down to them. So
that's what every team also says too, don't they?
Yeah,
every draft
does.
Man, he was in we had him in the 2nd round board.
Wow, he fell to us. Yeah. He fell right to us. We couldn't miss it.
All the other teams are idiots, and we're the smart ones.
We
didn't pick him 2 rounds early.
The one that I was surprised that did.
It is
fall
funny how every
far.
team promotes how good their draft picks are when half of them are bust.
Now, C.D. Lamb did fall to the Cowboys, and he was supposed to go a little higher.
Gross Matos was the one that fell. Really, it really was. And see, I know.
That's the one I was talking about.
You think that's the funniest name in the world.
It is. I looked at him like, who's that? And then I looked him up, and he seemed like he's a decent player.
Y'all drafted a
I
guy
thought a
named-
lot of people have him going as a 1st round pick.
Now, we're in
as one of the best defensive ends in the draft.
We're in the South, Zach, here in North Carolina. Do you not think there's going to be some country folks who's going to call him Gross Maters? There's no way no one's going to call him Gross Maters. We don't call them tomatoes here down here. It's Maters. So when I saw Matos, Just thinking about. I mean, it's not. That doesn't mean what. That isn't what it means. It's just gross matos. That's the only thing. Is just some old lady sitting there saying, "Man, he's some gross maters." Did you see Grand saying that? That's some.
With their teeth out?
Yeah, there's some gross maters.
False teeth
Maybe
out.
some salt, Hunter.
So yeah, I'm happy with what they did. I'm interested to see how it pans out. It's funny though. You look at the draft. I looked up some 2020 draft. What do they call it? After you get done, they grades. That's what it was. Draft grades, and you go down the list, and they give everybody like an A or a B plus. And I'm like, what the world is that? There's a couple that got a D. I think Green Bay really got blasted for taking Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. They said A-Rod. He should have request for a trade.
Aaron Rodgers.
I would. I would immediately.
They didn't help him out a bit.
Well, exactly, and we pointed that out, talked about that the other day. Is that that's not a win now move at all. If you're the quarterback and you're trying to win, you're being paid $30 million to win a Super Bowl, and they draft someone in the first round who can't help you win a Super Bowl. Why are you there?
But this isn't something unprecedented.
They were in the
for Green
NFC
Bay.
Championship too.
Yeah,
last year.
That's what they were in last year.
Right.
But this
So
isn't
instead of improving
unprecedented.
their team and trying to win the Super Bowl,
They said,
let's blow it up.
we're going to do it.
I don't think they said
did
let's
the Brett
bro-
Favre, Aaron Rodgers move.
That's what I was supposed to say. It's not unprecedented that they did
No,
that.
it's
They said
not.
it was the 15th year anniversary since they took Aaron Rodgers in the first round to replace Brett Favre. So the Jordan Love thing, I don't think they should have moved up to get him unless they were hearing somebody was going to take him. The one that made me really question what that front office is doing, and of course I'm not a Green Bay fan, so really I could care less if they win or lose. I'm fine. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan anyways to begin with. I think he's overrated. But when they drafted not even a starting running back, because they got one, with their first pick in the second round, they drafted what's probably going to end up being their second or third string running back. And I'm like, you act like he doesn't need wide receivers. You act like you don't need a tight end
That's
because
the
you just
thing.
want Jimmy Graham.
You didn't need a quarterback. You didn't need a running back.
But you drafted them in the first and second round anyways.
And that's why Aaron Rodgers to be like, so what's the plan? Like, you just hope we win again with the same players that we had last year?
They lost offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And they let San Francisco
demand it.
run for over 500 yards on them in 2 games.
I demand a trade so quickly. Real quick, that Nolan Ryan, 383 strikeouts, did that in 39 starts, so averaged basically 10 Ks a start.
I was looking up a stat that came up yesterday. I don't know if y'all
God,
seen it. Did y'all see the
Guns down a whole lineup and one more.
quarterbacks that have thrown to a number 1 wide receiver? Did y'all see that stat that come up yesterday?
Yes, I did see that stat.
Peyton
And
Manning was number 1 at like
you're talking about a first round wide
round
wide receiver.
tight end, wide receiver, anything. How
Yeah.
many how many touchdowns? How many touchdowns?
And Aaron Rodgers is like
He had one. He had one
one
to a first round
wide
pick.
receiver or tight end.
Yeah.
He only
And,
had one in his career.
Peyton Manning was number 1 at that, but he had Reggie Wayne and
Marvin
Harrison up. But it was
And he
astronomical
had
what he didn't have.
oh god.
Tom Brady was up there top 5.
Dallas Clark was a good tight
I
end.
was gonna say Dallas Clark. I was gonna say, what was that tight end? Not Jack Doyle, but it was another guy that they had. It was Dallas Clark. I think Dallas Clark is underrated as a tight end. But that's a conversation
But
for
that was
another
pretty,
day.
pretty interesting thing. And then we get to Jordan. I was looking
Jordan Love
No. I was talking about Kevin was talking about the Jordan
documentary.
The Last Dance.
Oh yeah.
We're still in the draft.
Oh,
We'll get to that just
I
a
don't
second.
know if you wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about like what the Panthers did because
Well,
you
right.
went 7 for 7 on defense. So either one of two things is going to happen. You're going to be better next year on defense, or you're still going to give up 30 a game.
yeah.
So we went through the schedule Saturday.
Oh my god.
I didn't pick the games.
Damn, it's brutal.
Hunter, Terry, and
Panther schedule.
Yes.
They don't have like the to be decided dates, but they do have the Panthers home and away game, like who they're playing.
I'm not going to tell you how many wins we picked. I want you to pick them.
I want you to know. I'm not
then
even
we'll
gonna
compare.
I'm not going to tell you how many wins we gave them, but I'm going to just tell you right now it's brutal. That schedule is brutal and might be the hardest schedule in the NFL.
It is tough looking. Carolina Panthers schedule. Let me make sure I pull it up. All right, Zach, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What do you think? I'll just start off with this one. What do you think your division record will be?
Okay, so we have Falcons, Tampa Bay, and the Saints.
Yep.
And you got to play them twice.
Last year, you averaged giving up to 30-something to all three.
But you could throw last year completely out, though. I mean, we're a completely new team. So that's 6 games, right? Times
Right. 6 games.
6 games.
3 home, 3 away within the division.
6 total games is in division?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. 2 and 4.
All right.
Who you have them splitting?
I don't know. They're gonna get. They're gonna out of those
You ain't
6 games,
sweeping
they'll
nobody.
win. Out of those 6 teams, I mean, out of those 6 games, they'll win 2, I believe. You know,
Yeah, but
just
you're not-
because it's rivals. And Atlanta could possibly be one because they just been all over the place for the last couple of years.
That would be one that I could see you splitting with. But I'm telling you this: you ain't sweeping nobody. You're gonna split with
That
somebody.
means you got to beat San
Drew Brees
Saints
is
or
hurt.
Tampa.
If Drew Brees is out like he was last year, they're going to go with Jameis.
But y'all can't beat Jameis.
Well, you split with Jameis last year.
And then,
That's fine. 2 and 4. Let's
yeah,
do it for the rest of
I'm
them.
good with 2 and 4.
All right,
All right. Ready?
out of division now.
These are home games. Bears. Nick Foles and that defense come to town. Win or loss?
I'm going to get them a loss. I wish I knew when it was.
The Detroit Lions.
That could be a win.
Denver Broncos.
That could be a win.
The Raiders.
No, they're not winning.
The Cardinals.
That could be a win.
All right. Road games. At Green Bay.
No.
This is tough. Yours away schedule is brutal.
At Kansas City.
No. That's going to be a wax.
At
Yeah.
Chargers.
I'm going to say they could win that game. The only thing I don't like is flying there. It's going to bother me.
At Vikings.
No.
This is not adding up right. Hold on. Something's got to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 16. Okay, I got you. Got you. I know what I was doing. I was looking at division road. Okay, so we did Chargers last. Did I do Vikings?
Yeah.
And then Saints, Bucks, and at Redskins.
Loss. They get
That ought to be I will not miss that game. I'm going to say we beat the Redskins.
at FedEx with Ron Rivera.
So Zach has them at 7 and 9.
God, I just don't see us doing that.
I'm about to say,
I was
Are you
thinking
ready?
5 and 11,
You ready?
honestly.
Terry, Tom, and Hunter, when we went through the schedule, we were going 2 out of 3, win-loss. They had you for 2 wins total. We ended up settling somewhere 4 to 5 as they're
I
going
was
to win
thinking
more
5
than
and
2.
11. Before, you
You're going to have to twist my arm to tell me who you're beating, though.
Well, you don't have a clue that this team
Because
does.
listen,
I'm
the home-
telling you,
the
the
home games
Chargers are
aren't
not
that-
going to be as bad because they're not going to be as injury prone as they were last year. And Phillip Rivers is not there to throw 20
The
picks.
home games are winnable. The home games are winnable. Chicago,
Yeah, you never
is
know with
iffy.
them.
Detroit is iffy.
Yeah.
Detroit, I'll give you as a win.
Denver,
I'm saying they're all 50-50 on them three.
Denver is iffy.
I don't know if Denver's iffy, though.
The Vegas is iffy. Arizona is
I
iffy.
do like I do like
Then you have your division coming in. So all 5 of your out-of-division opponents, I think, have iffy situations, whether it's quarterback or anywhere else or defense. So, Zach, looking at it, you could say, yeah, those teams are better right now, 2 and 14, but 7 and 9, I don't think.
We're not
But
going
5
2 and 14.
But 5
You might go
wins.
3 and 13. You're right.
I think 5 should be the over/under.
I thought 5 and 11 in my
5
head
and a
before
half.
we asked.
5 and a
Yeah.
half.
You just got to look at it this
That's
way.
fair.
You lost everybody.
That's good. Our defense was horrible.
You lost everybody, and now
Where else can we
you're
go?
throwing out a bunch of youngsters.
Where was we at? And what was our defensive rank?
Never does a team come out there that is so young have great success going forward.
The one thing about
The
that,
question mark is going to be the offense.
I got 5, maybe 6 wins.
Is Teddy going to make that big of a difference?
I think he will.
I think he
I'm
will too.
I'm gonna have a Bridgewater jersey. It's coming as soon as they make it. They ain't made it yet.
I think the road games.
I'll have one.
I gotta
Y'all
order
might
my-
not win a single road game, but the home games, I think you can steal 4 or 5 of them. I don't know if you can win a away game, man.
I'll give you.
I will
your
chances
I
on
will
the road.
give you 4.
Your chances on the road are at Washington, but is Rivera going to lose to his old team and at home?
It's
Hail to the Redskins.
I mean, it's just so. You're just making a point about losing everybody, but when you plug defensive players in that are right out of college, they play better than offense a lot of times. Like they interchange better than a wide receiver does or a quarterback.
See, I don't know about
running
that.
back's not a.
I think
wide
wide receiver and running back are plug and play out of college. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, like think about it, defensive schemes in the NFL are going to be a whole lot more intricate than they are in the college.
That's the second thing that's going to be brought up too. Is I don't know how much they're going to get together.
And I want you to think about this too. I looked at it this way.
That even throws Tampa Bay
Which
in on
coaching staff do I trust more at the time? Because I don't know what Rule's doing.
I don't either.
I think he did a good job in the draft. I will give him 100%. He addressed all of your needs, which was defense.
That's what.
But I'm going to tell you this: if it comes down to me choosing Matt Rule and his new defensive coordinator over Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio and the defensive studs that we've drafted and that we have, I'm taking my defense over the Panthers any day.
And
at least right now.
Sadly for the Bucs, I was thinking about this the other day. If they don't get together and practice, they might get off to a little bit of a.
Saturday, when we talked about the possible teams you could split in the division, said the way that you're going to split with Tampa Bay is you catch them early.
Yeah, I agree.
You catch them early before they're ever in rhythm and Tom Brady and everybody gets in sync.
But think about the Panthers though. Like, obviously, you guys aren't trying to win the Super Bowl this year. I would say.
Would it be beneficial to even win them games?
Not even that, but like, Hunter, they don't know. Just because Brady might not know their playbook as much, Panthers don't know it either.
Not right now.
And the defensive playbook.
Yeah, at least not right now.
Both sides of the ball.
Everybody that. I think it hurts the Panthers more because they have a completely new system and a new coaching staff and everything.
Well,
So for them not to have this time that most teams are needing because everything's going to be pushed back, it might hurt you more than you think.
Does Kyle Allen end up starting games in Washington early on? With the switch over.
He might. Nah, he does. It was because he knows the offense. Well, that's why they brought him in. He knows.
Why the Panthers say they brought
Turner's offense.
Bridgewater in is because he's new to the offense, and a couple of other quarterbacks have moved.
Did they foresee this
based on the offense? Yeah, they knew that.
They knew that we were shutting it down.
They knew something was up. I'm guessing.
And we still, they've got Bridgewater, they got McCaffrey, and the wide receiver from the Jets. I'm interested.
Robbie Anderson.
I'm ready to see how that kind of works out. It's going to be interesting. That's what I say because
I think your defense, I think your offense is the bright point right now because the defense has still got all these question marks. Because like I was getting at, just because you got rid of everybody that was on that problematic defense, you got young guys now, so they got to come in and even learn how to play in the system. They got to learn to play at the NFL speed, anyways. And sometimes that learning gap can be pretty substantial where the first 5 or 6 games it's going to be a real stepping stone for them to try and get it.
I think being in the division with Tampa Bay and the Saints, both of them could win the NFC.
I was going to say both of them could win the Super Bowl.
Let me give you the silver lining, Zach. In 3 years you might have the best team.
I agree.
Depending on 2 things. If you get a quarterback of the future, if that's what you want, or even if you got Bridgewater.
He's only 26.
Right. So in
he's a baby.
Let's say in 3 years.
Him and Jameis are both 26.
Is Breeze still there in 3 years? Is Brady still there in 3 years?
I think Breeze is after this year. He done did that TV deal.
I mean,
Brady.
That's 2 of them that might not even be here in 3 years. And then you're looking at the Falcons. Matt Ryan's going to be in his 30s by then. So the Panthers, if they do it right, can set up for a flip-flop in this division and jump up to the top. Mario Tennis Online. Yeah. Jesus, I'm going to read this, I guess, Hunter. I guess I need to read it for a lot of these online sports and stuff. Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova joining a Mario Tennis tournament. They're just all doing some online stuff right now.
I've been saying we should get Tecmo Bowl, get it going.
Well, Zach, I've thought about doing a we'll have a Tecmo Bowl challenge.
Do you not think
and have people come up here and let me beat the snot out of them and scream?
Because they're doing it for what?
I did get me a copy for the house.
Aren't they doing that for charity?
That one in particular, yeah.
How is the money? Is the money already established for charity? Is it coming out of their pocket? because
Hell no.
that's what I was about to get at. I understand
It'll
a lot
never
of
come
these.
out of their
I understand a lot of these people are going out here and saying, "Hey, we're going to do this for charity," but they're also asking the common person, who majority of us are out of work right now because of this, to be the ones that donated. I'm sorry.
We need 10,000 people to give us $1 instead of me just giving $10,000.
I was about to say, I'm sorry, millionaire and billionaire, if I really don't support, like, if I don't give you any money, because why can't you just give the money? Like you just said, say they want to raise $10,000. I'm sorry, you're a millionaire. What's $10,000 to you right now? Pretty sure you could just wipe your butt with it and walk on. Just be like, here, take it. I really didn't need it anyways. So, because I saw that today, it was like Oprah and somebody else, and somebody else. They were all of them were millionaires, but they were doing something up. It was like a fundraiser for charity, and I'm thinking, first of all, Oprah is a billionaire.
Yeah,
she could foot the money herself.
Man, what's concerning about some of the tennis things is that they've been having a lot of point shaving scandals in the last few years, and a lot of lower rung folks that aren't that good are the ones doing it because that's the only way they can make
money.
And it was just talking about how some of the lower rung players are struggling and everything now. But all right, just a headline that popped up. I was trying to find something else, anything else along the Panthers. Zach, in a couple of years, I think if this was a good high from Rule, in 3 years, either you're positioned to be the best team in the division, or in 3 years, the Falcons will be way better than everybody else.
Here's a question I pose. Here's a question I pose to you. So, which team this year, thanks to the draft, or the first round draft, because I think most of us have at least seen who everybody has taken in the first round, which team is this year's 49ers? And I know it's going to sound crazy because they had everything fall into place this year, but the 49ers the year prior were a 4-win team and then went to the Super Bowl this past year. And all they did was great draft picks, and Jimmy Garoppolo was healthy. So which team could be the 4 or 5 win team that just flips a switch and is a Super Bowl contender?
Carson Wentz gets hurt and Jalen Hurts get in. They might go back win a Super Bowl again.
Hunter, I think as part of our show, there goes Judah. Holding it down the hallway. As part of our show, Tecmo games only last about 20 minutes. I think that should be our halftime.
Yeah.
A halftime show.
We do 45 minutes to an hour, and then we take a 20-minute Tecmo Bowl break, and then we can all play seasons. Everybody, hey, the Redskins are good on that game. We can all have a season and play. I'll be the Eagles. Well, that's not fair if I get the Eagles. Chris said he accepts my Tecmo Bowl challenge. Chris, if you get Bo Jackson, I get the Eagles. If you get anyone else, I don't really care who I pick. I'll play with anybody else. But I do have Reggie White is a Bo Jackson neutralizer on that game, and I'm not afraid of Bo Jackson one single iota. In fact, I would rather you not play with Joe Montana than Bo Jackson on that game. I don't know if you've ever done it, Zach. Do you know you can drop back Montana? Like back to the end of the goal line.
Just throw a pass and Jerry Rice
he'll throw it
miss
90 yards to Jerry Rice. Yep. That's way harder than stopping Bo Jackson, in my opinion.
Warren Moon's very similar. They got the 3 of the 4 best wide receivers, I think is in the game on Houston. And
really, who's on there? I can't remember.
They're scrubs, and they got their rankings.
I can't remember who
Givens.
was on those. It was Ernest Givens was one of them.
Pickett.
Okay.
There was 3 or 4 of them on there, and even their guy that's sitting on the bench, Duncan, is rated in the top 10. Now, who knows how they did that? And then it's funny, they say that even if you take Jerry Rice and put him as a running back, he's second to Bo Jackson.
You could put him as a.
Yes.
I didn't know you could move the receivers.
Yes.
I'm trying to think about.
Remember Sam Grady for the Raiders could go he was a wide receiver. You can put him at running back.
But you can't put the running backs at wide receiver.
He was the second best running back on the Raiders behind Bo, even better than Marcus Allen. Weird.
Marcus Allen was pretty good on that game too. Emmett was good. His moves were good. His speed wasn't fast. Barry Sanders was probably about the fastest. Thurman was good. Emmett, like if I played a season with Dallas, that was before they started winning. That was like the year before they started being good. I can win the Super Bowl, the Tecmo Bowl with them. It's a way more of a struggle than someone else. Like what's fun about it is you getting Bo. It's fun playing with Bo Jackson in a season and just see how many rushing yards you can actually get. And what I would do, Zach, is Tim Brown's the kick returner.
Always go.
I would go back to the 1 yard line.
That's what I would do.
Or 5, go back to 5 to be safe.
I
just
think
in case
me and
the
my
defense
cousin
calls your play and gets a safety.
My cousin Michael Silver.
Yeah.
He used to play up at his house, Mickey. And he would always want me to play with the Raiders to see what the highest score I could ever get was. And the best I ever done was 127-0. That's pretty impressive.
I was about to say, didn't we get to 100 one time? You
I hit
past that?
127-0
Damn.
with Bo. He had, I think he had
We
12,
did get 100
1,200 yards in one game.
And I think you'd like the game because your skins are pretty nasty in it.
1,200 yards.
Well, I'll say this. Speaking of video games, so the NCAA is working to try and get
Right.
Yeah, I
players
would
compensated
love
in 2021, 2022. If
they
you give me
brought that game.
NCAA 20, or like
would
well,
love
at
it.
the time it would probably be NCAA 21, I'd be like, all right,
done.
bring it. Who wants to smoke now?
I liked it better, Madden.
I did not.
You
No,
did
I
not?
loved it.
I liked the recruiting and all that.
Yes,
The game,
The story
I didn't
wise.
like better than Madden. I think it was the
It
game.
was easier.
Well, today's Madden games
You'd
are
have the hot
trash
buttons.
too, though.
I'm
the,
not-
the physics system that they put in it is really not that good.
I'll explain why I didn't like the college one. My roommate in college was from Akron, Ohio. He could pick Akron, the Zips, and beat the best team on the game, which at that time was Reggie Bush and USC.
Or I could do that in 14 against Alabama using Marshall.
And the reason he could, Zach, is he figured out how to pick off any pass you threw.
Right.
And so we would
Jump
go,
it.
we would go over to like, people would have parties and people in the apartment complex, you just walk in and they're playing games. Like, hey, we're gonna play. And I'm like, I bet y'all
Hand me the
$25
sticks.
on this guy and you can pick his team. And Zach would destroy you. The best Madden game I ever saw, Hunter, was during a snowstorm. Regulation time. Swear to God, I'll promise. The most legit thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't believe it if anybody told me. 100-97.
No such thing as defense, I can tell.
It was 100-97. The Atlanta Falcons with Michael
gosh.
Vick. Listen to who they
Was
played.
it the 03 version?
Yeah. Against Kelly Holcomb and the Cleveland Browns. My roommate from Ohio threw 580-something yards on the Falcons with Kelly Holcomb. Might have been
Hey, listen,
680-something yards.
their arms never get tired in video games.
Dude.
I throw for 1,000 yards in a game if I can.
Vic would just roll out and outrun everybody, Zach, and then but Holcomb got hot, and I guess I don't know if they were playing on rookie or the level right above it, but Madden was keeping them tight in a regulation game, 100-97. And Hunter, you know what the 100-point was? A Michael Vick
2-point conversion.
fumbled
Oh,
kick return.
they had him at
He
kick
put
return.
Vick at kick returner. He fumbled it. It rolled around like in the end zone. He picks it up and runs around everybody and runs it back to end the game, 100-97. And I couldn't believe. I mean, I watched every bit of that game, and I'll never forget that my whole life. It's probably the greatest Madden game I've ever seen. But yeah, Zach, I did like the recruiting. You also got to remember
The dynasty mode's the best mode for college football.
So with App, I could put App in the ACC. I always took Duke out and put App in. It didn't help your team per se, your players. You still had to recruit the players. So the first year or two, you take some ass whippings and from some of the teams. I think I went like 10-2. Like you could beat the regular teams, like Carolina. As always, App can beat North Carolina with no problem.
All right, enough having that.
But had problems with the Miamis and
Florida States
Florida
and-
States of the world.
Virginia Tech
obviously.
at the time.
Clemson had Woody Dantzler on those games. You remember them? They were pretty decent then. You remember him, Zach? He was a running quarterback from Clemson. Really good.
Yeah. That's that was the thing that came out the other day.
I actually have 2 copies in my house.
The thing that came out the other day,
Of
it
college
said
football on PlayStation 3.
it said the most deadliest. What was the most? And it had about 5 different choices. The most deadliest player on a video game.
Yeah,
Had
it's a
03
sports
Vic.
game.
Had
Number
03
one was
Vic.
probably Vic.
They had Bo Jackson when you could play against computer, he was nasty. They had Tiger Woods. I think it was 2000 the version. He was just way up there.
The answer is something else. Do you remember NES football?
Yeah, NES play action football.
Do you remember? I think that was the game. Do you remember there
Yeah.
was one football game, and it was I can't remember if it was Bo or someone else, but it was a different. It was like John Elway football or NES football. One of them where Bo was on it, and it was him and another guy, and you could literally run 50 yards, stop, run all the way back to the goal line. there was like a hyper mode you could press that you got to use like once a game.
Tecmo Super Bowl for Chris Nelson. Go ahead.
Right. And I can't remember the name of this game, but what you could do, for some reason I'm not thinking it was Bo. I'm thinking Barry Sanders or someone else. But you could run around the defense, Hunter. The defense would just chase you, and you would just run around them. Mm-hmm. And you could run all the clock off if you wanted to and score whenever you wanted to. But there was a hyper mode on one of those games. I can't remember who it was or what game it was.
The only other
play action football.
The only other thing,
Sega or something, I was thinking.
Because people are probably like, why are they talking video games? It's like the only other thing that excites me for a sports video game that's coming out is officially 2K has got the license to start making an NFL game, and they can challenge Madden.
Did you see there's a throwback to that? Did you read it in full? It has to be like Blitz style.
Right.
It cannot be
a non-simulation.
They have the
Madden's
rights.
got the rights to simulation.
Yes.
As long as they,
because I was excited about that. 2K used to be fun.
But yeah, as long as you can use your the names and everything, I think that
right.
makes it cool.
And so you remember Blitz?
Right.
You're in there DDTing people.
Yeah.
So if they amp up, let's just say somebody's stats in the NFL right now, who's
they make Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick 2.0.
They could do that.
Right.
Like he could have burners, like fire coming out of his feet when he takes off, or who's the defender that got drafted last year for San Francisco?
Well, think about about baseball games.
Super fast or something.
I remember
we talk about the season, Hunter, being long.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about playing 162 video baseball games for 1 year?
It was horrible.
I would always reduce my year to 4. I mean, to 40 games.
Mm-hmm.
I would play 40 games, and if I hit 10 homers, I would times it by 4. But hey, I hit 50 homers.
I even do that with the basketball season.
Yeah, I never go 82.
On the
28, I think it is.
On the basketball, I do the 41, and I simulate to the playoffs, and I will play the playoffs. Is what I do. I like playing the playoffs. And the last time I played, though, I got mad.
I'll play important games, but other than that, no. Like if I got a game coming up against me, the person in first place in the East, I'm like,
Madden. It's only 16 games.
Yeah.
I was playing 80. I'm gonna play 82 basketball games for 1 year. Then the next thing,
probably winning 100 to 40, 120 to 40. I mean,
yeah, I like the Super Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, he was asking what would you play on. It has to be Super Tecmo Bowl. Tecmo Bowl without the stats was not any good. I'm gonna show this to Kevin when we get done. This is the Tecmo Geek. It's awesome to read through.
I wish I knew it was John Elway or
I never played John Elway.
I'm gonna look up some of those older football games.
Dan Marino, I think, had one. John Elway. So,
all right.
The Last Dance.
Yep.
Zach, you weren't here for Monday's talk. We featured. Did you watch this Sunday?
Yes.
So they featured Rodman in episode 3, Phil Jackson episode 4.
Had the Bad Boy Pistons.
Any early thoughts? Couple of things that I thought was the best part of the show. It was for folks like Hunter. It is you got to see two things. How hard people actually fouled Jordan when he went to the lane.
LeBron would cry. I mean, could you imagine him flopping after he gets pounded like that?
The LeBron's flops are funny when they didn't get hit in the face or barely touched with an elbow. All 280 pounds, he just flopping.
Yeah, they've been throwing in another discussion. Go ahead.
So that one, and then also Jordan's attitude. Period.
We knew this about him. It ain't like a secret that most of us didn't know the way that he done. They haven't addressed Cartwright threatening to break his legs yet.
Yeah. But what he did, the funniest part I thought of the show was he was talking about Cartwright shooting with 5 seconds left in the game.
You could just tell.
Jordan said, "You mean to tell me we're gonna let Bill Cartwright shoot under 5 seconds? Fuck that bullshit."
He did.
Yeah. That's what he said.
And that's what the kids just don't get. Like they'll be like, "Well, you should throw it to Bill. He's wide open." Like Jordan said,
and he missed one. He showed it. And he missed. So.
And Jordan's his point is, why should someone else take the shot when I have a better chance of hitting it, even if I'm double teamed?
Just because the system negates you. The system, you should be able to adjust the system, which they did when he played to take final shots. They adjusted it. So it was adjustable. He was talking about getting fouled real hard by the bad boy Pistons and Isaiah Thomas, and they're still bad blood there. The Dennis Rodman thing, I always thought that Rodman was one of the best additions they ever made. I would love to see Rodman in today's NBA and just have everybody crying.
Well, Skip was this morning talking about they're talking about, of course, Shannon and LeBron. He was like, well, who can guard LeBron? And Skip's like, everybody on the team but Longley. Ron Harper will guard him. Scotty will guard him. Michael will guard him. And we're going to throw Rodman at him just to piss him off. Like he said, we could just put Rodman on him.
If he puts Rodman on him the whole game, he is done.
I mean, just think about that.
Rodman might get thrown out in
I want
today's
you to
NBA.
think about it.
But that would be he used to get in mailman's shit.
He did. He had him out. He got Scotty's.
You know what it reminded me of
scared
with
of it.
Dennis Rodman? Just watching how he played defense and like his mentality towards the defensive game and just how he wanted to get in your brain at the same time. Patrick Beverley tries to do it, except Patrick Beverley is like 6'3", so everybody just looks at him kind of like a gnat. Meanwhile, you've got Rodman here, who's like 6'6", almost 7'7". I mean, he's strong as hell. And he's still going to be a gnat. So essentially, he's just the most annoying player on the planet.
And
it's one of those things where it's like, who is he defending? Because if he's not mentally tough, he's going to have a bad game.
he did not. The thing that was great for him with the Bulls, he didn't have to score. He didn't care about scoring. He knew what he was going to be plugged in to do. He was going to be to disrupt Karl Malone, which he did a fantastic job, and get rebounds. He was pulling 20 rebounds. He was up all night and pulling 20 rebounds. Kendall Gill story come out with Kendall Gill where it said that he was out with him one night at a strip club, I think it was, and he went and pulled 20 rebounds. They left at 5 a.m. He got pulled 20 rebounds. His body was in great shape. They just had to keep the reins on him, and but getting back even with Jordan, it's going to be interesting how it all plays. They might be done with Isaiah and those guys. They probably are. They didn't go a whole lot. I'm surprised they got Isaiah to talk. But you're getting into the Bulls' time now. They said Dream Team's coming up.
Right.
Dream Team.
So last in the episodes they talked Lakers. So now you're up to Dream Team in the second championship because they haven't talked Portland yet. They haven't talked Phoenix or any of the other ones. So right now you're pretty much up
So
to.
we're basically Seattle, Portland.
We ain't got to any of those. We've just done the
next.
first
Yeah,
championship.
that's next, yeah.
Portland should be next. And then Barkley. I telling them Saturday the Sun series is my favorite series of all time. Jordan averaged 41 in that series. Barkley 27 and 13.
I wish Barkley could have got one. I do.
Yeah.
I wish he would have got one again, especially against them. He would have a lot better.
Well, he won the MVP. He's the
He
one
did.
that had the MVP against Jordan in those five. When people wonder why he didn't get that sixth MVP, it was Barkley. Barkley was the leading scorer on 2 Dream Teams,
And he was a rebound machine.
and he never had another player on his team really that could get 20 points
They tried to, and this is all later. They tried to match
consistently, 20
him up.
consistently.
Hakeem. They tried to match him up.
Right, and it was
Hakeem. They
too
tried
late.
to match him up with Scotty. Scotty.
Yeah, him and
Hakeem.
Scotty and Hakeem in the second.
Wasn't Drexler on that too?
Yeah, Drexler won one. He won the second championship, but Drexler and them did not win once they changed their uniforms to the. You win a championship, Hunter. You
With
don't
your
change
red,
their uniforms.
You go blue and white and
The
a
Rams.
star, I
The
think it
Rams
was.
did it. And then-
So, I mean,
I'm
it's
sorry.
been
I'm
great.
reading something that's made me turn my nose up.
oh God.
Well, I mean, this past episode featured Michael Jordan's nemesis.
Yeah.
The Bad Boy Pistons and Isaiah Thomas. And Chris Broussard sat down one-on-one with Isaiah Thomas. And this is just what Isaiah Thomas said. I think this generation is not getting enough credit for what they're doing
Yeah.
because the athletes that are in this generation are so far superior than what was in my generation. Jordan was the best athlete that we had ever seen from an athletic standpoint. There are like 10 or 11 guys in the NBA right now with Jordan's athleticism. We didn't have that back then. With what KD and LeBron are doing, if you put them back in the era of the 80s with their talent and their athleticism and their skill, who's really the GOAT?
Nobody ever argues that Jordan wasn't or other people weren't as athletic at him. Nobody ever argues that people couldn't shoot better at him. No one ever argues that people, and I said this a couple weeks ago, you can argue that there are other people's better at things that he does in basketball, but you can never argue that that one person or that other person is better than everything
Yeah.
at him in that. And
Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. It's like, okay, KD, is a 7-foot shooter.
Right. They would have been fine. And Isaiah's right. What he's
7-foot
wrong.
shooter. But what I'm getting at though is like there's no guarantee that KD is going to be even that good of a shooter in the 80s or 90s, is because people are going to be up in his grill guarding him compared to what they do today.
They wouldn't have been shooting the threes.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been shooting the threes, first of all.
So
he would still been able to hit the mid-range shot, but as skinny as Kevin Durant is, and as physical as they were, he would have been down low going against Olajuwon. He would have been down low going against David Robinson. He would have been banging bodies with guys that have another extra 120 pounds on him, and they are a whole lot meaner than Kevin Durant is, because I can tell you what, just what I watch off Kevin Durant, he is not like he's not aggressive.
Right, and that's the thing that
the only one that he listed that I could give credit to is I think LeBron James could play that day. Now I'm not going to sit here and say he'd be the greatest thing ever.
I think anybody today could play then. I think anybody then can
play now.
Can play now. I've been on a million basketball courts, Hunter, and people can play.
If
with each other.
That's what my and I'll get back to it. If that my argumentative paper made that's all it was about. If they are more athletic and better today than they were in the 90s, then why are they only scoring 3 more points?
Right.
And they're taking times 2. They have not times 2 the amount of threes they
haven't volunteered to play on an 11-foot goal yet, have they? The difference is in all that. What I was kind of getting at about the athleticism and everything. Dominique's a better dunker.
Yeah.
Vince Carter's a better dunker. A lot of people are better dunkers than Michael. Are they better in-game dunkers? I don't know. But that doesn't matter. Larry Bird's a better shooter. Klay Thompson's a better shooter. But that doesn't matter. And Jordan fans will point to LeBron losing 6 championships. Under hell or high water, Michael Jordan wasn't losing 6 championships. He didn't even lose 1. And we're going to talk about 6. So the difference is between Jordan and all this and everything else. It's the want to. It's not the who has the most talent. And you talk to LeBron fans, their biggest argument is he's 3 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier. Who gives a flying fuck? Listen, I'm sorry.
So was Karl Malone.
I was about to say, put him on the team with Karl Malone, Jerry West, Shaq, all the guys that were bigger than the guys they played with, but that doesn't mean they're more skilled.
Right.
Well, did we ever think, when Shaq was playing, until he won a championship, did anybody ever think he was the best player in the league? Nobody ever did. Because he couldn't shoot free throws.
People looked at Penny before they looked at Shaq while he was on Orlando.
And the only moves he had was a little baby hook and a dunk. Olajuwon eviscerated him.
Yeah. Robinson.
Well, all of it. Robinson did in the 90s. Yeah. Shaq couldn't touch him in the 90s. And then when Robinson got old and hurt, Shaq started winning championships. Shaq didn't start winning championships until Jordan and Robinson were gone. And Barkley was gone.
Kobe.
So and he had Kobe on his team. So to me, I never thought Shaq was the best center or one of the best. And there was arguments when he was playing before he won them championships, Zach, that you wouldn't even know if you'd have him on the top 4 centers of all time. And then now kids today, all they see is the most dominant center ever. He's bigger. He's stronger.
Oh, and I'll still take Shaq.
How is
like prime Shaq?
I'll take Kareem.
I'll still take Shaq.
I would never take
like
Shaq.
Early 2000 Shaq. I would take Shaq.
I like Hakeem.
That's what I'm saying. I would. That one right there.
He's tough. Man.
That's the best one.
You see, you missed out on it. You missed out on his skill level.
Well, I'll just be 100% honest.
You've seen Jordan and Kobe play with their backs to the basket, post up, right?
Oh yeah, they're similar.
That's Hakeem Olajuwon at 7 foot.
He's going to put the dream shake on you and fade away into the same thing, but and hit a shot.
It's the same thing.
I'll put it like this:
shoot outside.
My generation, kids my age, missed out on what a real center is.
And I hate
because
that
the
about
center's
the
gone.
NBA.
Because the center's gone.
It is.
So the only center we can look back at and even put him there is Shaq, because he was the last one that was actually making a difference in winning. Because the other two that were winning were power forwards.
Shaq was great.
It was Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. Those were the other 2 big men that were winning.
What aggravates
now it's just so guard heavy.
I guess fans from other times is like, I don't understand why Durant doesn't work the block so much. I don't understand why.
Because
LeBron
he get pushed around. He's like Durant. That will always be my knock on Durant, is he won't get down low because he's. He would fade away and hit every shot.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't need to.
He can't post up
at 7 foot with his fadeaway, he could Dirk Nowitzki that to death.
Yep.
Rasheed Wallace did that. And he's better than those guys. And that's what, when you see LeBron not posting up all the time, and you think, and that's when people see. So Hunter, you can have all the you can be faster and stronger than people, But when it slows down,
That's Westbrook as a guard.
when it slows down, what's LeBron's move? Like if you said, okay, I'm gonna draw up a play for LeBron. What is the
When
move?
you
So
slow
if you
it,
give
I'm
it
trying
to
to think.
Kobe or Michael or Akeem or one of these other guys,
LeBron's going to do the turnaround fadeaway. It looks horrible.
Right, you know the exact.
It does look horrible. I can tell you what I see happen to LeBron when it slows down. LeBron will go ahead and post up in the post, but all he does is drop his shoulder.
You don't have any moves.
He doesn't have any spin move to get into the lane, and he doesn't shake anybody. LeBron's going to just overpower you to the rim because he is strong. I will admit it. He is stronger than probably everybody else. Now that a lot of teams are going to play small ball, LeBron, it could be a legit just true center and just post everybody up and just out physical you.
Well, that's where I would like say if I got Kevin Durant on my team, and I don't see a reason a lot of the times, like how many people can guard him, Hunter? So let's say if you put a guard on him, someone shorter than him, fade away, fade away, fade away. If you put a taller guy on him, back up the 3-point line, either shoot it or blow by him. Like to me, there's a reason him and LeBron are scoring 27 all time. They're third and fourth all time scores, I think, by average. And
well, it is right. I don't know anybody that can guard him.
They could do way more out of the post, and it's not in the analytics. You know, the 2 points thing, and we talked with Dwight Howard. You know, if you're getting 55%, it doesn't matter how many threes you hit.
Yeah,
you can work so much offense out of the post with a guy in there that it just blows your mind today. Look at this. So I wanted to see Rodman's actual comments on the guard and LeBron thing, and this is all turned into to LeBron stuff, and it doesn't have to be about LeBron. And honest to me, I think it's an insult even to even go there. Like I said, you lose 6 championships, so they'll make the argument. Some LeBron fans, well, Jordan didn't make it to 9. So you're telling me that if Jordan was 6-3 instead of 6-0, all LeBron people would shut up and say, "Yeah, he's the best because he made it to 9." Then,
And he made it to 9 because he was in the least.
well, that's another argument, Zach and Hunter. By pure mathematics, does it mean the top 2 teams are in the championship every year? It doesn't,
No.
because you're in separate divisions, you're separate conferences. So, like you just said, so if the Bulls were per se in the East. He beat 6 West Conference teams. That means he'd at least be 6-0, right? If LeBron's was in the opposite, he would only have 3 wins. So either way, it's not like he's going to have more wins.
it's crazy, but you could argue it this way. Who were the 2 teams that were in Michael's way early? Arguably, it was the greatest Celtics teams they ever had in the bad boy Pistons.
Right.
Now let's do this. Did any teams in the East during LeBron's runs with Cleveland or the Heat, and even the team he was on, did they match up to what the Pistons and the Celtics have, talent-wise? Probably not.
No.
So to me,
depth, maybe not.
No.
They might have a better player than ever, or I don't know. I mean, it's still.
Think about it.
All right, think about this.
because look at it, like we can say LeBron would be the best player. The only team that LeBron was on that could arguably be probably one of the best teams in the East was the Heatles when he was in Miami. Other than that, it's like, what team did he face against that had the caliber of players that Michael faced against when he was initially trying to get to the championship? I'm not saying after he started making championships. I was just talking him trying to get to championships.
Right. Okay. So I see where you're going. So, for example, and I was trying to show how he shut down the league there pretty much. So he won it in the 7th year. So before he won it in his first 6 years, the winners were Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas. After that, no one else ever won with him in the league as a full-time player. Now, you can go to 95 and say the Rockets, okay? Well, if that's the case, let's just say we give it to him. So that's Akeem. So that means you got Bird, Isaiah, Magic, and Akeem. I mean, hell, it's a pretty good team. There it is. Now,
And there's more on that team than just Hakeem, too.
Now let's look.
That's pretty good players.
Now then, look at LeBron and just straight up go over who beat him in the finals. Like it's
Duncan,
Durant, Duncan, Steph was the best player on one team.
Dirk
was the best player on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing?
That's about it.
Golden State.
That's it, because he's lost most of his championships to Golden State.
Steph and Durant were 2 championships. Duncan won 2 on them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Dirk, who else beat him?
There's one more.
What am I missing?
Duncan, I don't think Duncan won 2 on him.
Did he not? I thought they won.
They beat him
won
twice in
early.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
Oh, well, he
twice
did
in
make it.
Cleveland.
Yeah, he did make it. What year?
I'm thinking I'm twice in Cleveland because they should have beat them 3 times when the Ray Allen hit the shot.
Because
right around the world.
I'm trying to think if LeBron, because LeBron, he made a finals his first run in Cleveland, right? They ended up getting swept. This was
I think
before
yes,
the Kyrie
That
days.
was the Spurs.
Okay, so then it is twice because you're right. I forgot because young like me, I kept thinking he would just get close. He would run into the Celtics, the big 3 Celtics, and just couldn't get past them. But okay, so he did one time. Because the other one I thought of was he made the Eastern Conference Finals against Dwight and the Magic and lost to the Magic.
All right, so just
I want you to think about that. He made the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to Dwight and the Magic. And Jordan was losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boy Pistons and Larry Bird
Shaq and Penny.
And Shaq and Penny.
In his year back.
Yeah, in his year back. How many he played 2 months when
Shaq
he came
and
back?
Penny didn't beat him.
Scotty got
Nick Anderson beat him.
So, all right. So when did LeBron start? 2003.
Yeah, 2003. That was a great draft too. I'll admit that was Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, all of them.
Except for the one that they picked in Darko in the middle of that.
So I'm just trying. So just follow me here, guys.
Yep.
Let's name the best players on all the teams from 2003 on. So 2003 was the Spurs over the Nets. So we'll say Duncan. 2004 Pistons.
And even the Nets at the time, that was what's his name? Jason Kidd.
Now there'll be arguments over who the best players on the Pistons were.
I think Rashid was.
Okay. I was going to say they wouldn't have won it if they didn't bring in Rashid. Billups was the MVP. Hamilton was the leading scorer.
I was going to say, I
And
like
you still had
Hamilton.
Ben Wallace.
Yes. And
They had
a lot
good
of people
team.
love Ben
They had a
Wallace.
good B team.
Miami Heat over the Mavericks. That's Dwayne Wade. Spurs. How about
Wait.
Celtics?
Oh, yeah, that's the first one. I was going to say, no, they lost to the Mavericks. That's the first time. Never mind.
Without. That was Wade and Shaq.
Yeah.
Beat Dirk. How about the Boston Celtics? Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce and KG.
Then the Lakers won a couple more. So there's Kobe.
Kobe.
All right. Then the Mavericks. That's Dirk. Then the Heat won 2.
There's LeBron.
Then the Spurs over the Heat. Then the Warriors championships. And then last year Kawhi got a championship.
And then you can argue on the most recent Warriors championship that it was Durant that was the best player, but the first one was Curry.
All right, so here's Jordan's. Before Jordan won a championship, had a championship team and teammate, Bird, Isaiah, Magic. That's 3 people during Jordan's reign won a title.
And there's 3 Hall of Famers.
Akeem, we're going to count him for the 95. So during Jordan's Bulls years, only 4 stars won a championship. During LeBron's career, Duncan, Durant, Steph, Dirk, Wade, Rashid, Kobe, Paul Pierce, and Kawhi Leonard have all led their team to a championship during LeBron's career.
And all those probably will make the Hall of Fame.
That's 9 players.
I was going to say most, if not all of them, will make the Hall
let's
of Fame.
take those two stats.
But what I'm saying is, and here's what I'm saying on it, as a Jordan backer, he shut the league down.
That's what I was going to say.
No one else was allowed to win. Barkley didn't get 1. Carmelo didn't get 1. All these guys got 1.
Where I was going with it is
Kobe and Duncan.
all those guys on LeBron's list are going to be Hall
Steph
of
got
Famers.
multiple.
Everybody that's on the, the top 50 players, most of them was on the Dream Team.
The Jordan losers list.
See what I'm
They're
saying?
all losers. Because he beat them all.
So if those guys played in LeBron's era, they could have got some championships. I'm sure Charles would.
And I will always preach this too. They're always like, well, Michael didn't start winning until he got Scotty and until he got, all the other players. And I'm like, dude, LeBron James single-handedly gets to pick every single one of his teammates. He is the GM. The only time he didn't, I'll give it, was his first run with Cleveland when he was still young before he made, the big decision and went to Miami. But even since then,
Still
when he
had
was
2 All-Stars on his team.
I was going to say, but even then,
Mo and Z made
but even then,
All-Stars.
when he was in Miami, what was it? He got Chris Bosh to team up with him and Dwayne Wade. When he went back to Cleveland, he had Kyrie, but then he pulled players
And Love.
and he pulled players with him from the Heat team to go with him to Cleveland. And now he's in L.A. tried to move every young player the first year he was there, succeeded when the season was done, and pulled in everybody that he wants.
And Chris is on there, and Chris will probably know and agree. I think Wilt Chamberlain's about the only person that's won a championship pretty much by himself, and he probably had help with those.
I was trying to figure out what he was asking.
He's just saying you need a top 5 player to win a championship in the league, and that's for the most part. That
and
is.
I'll admit
Pistons,
that you need a. Well, I don't even know.
The Pistons are the only team that I know that didn't have a top 10 player in the league.
I was gonna say you have to also be able to have. You got to have a
2003
partner.
Pistons.
I think to me, you also got to have a good number 2. Like you can't do it alone. You got to have a good 2. The only one,
maybe 04 Pistons.
Yeah, 2 guys got to get 50.
The only one to
2 guys
me,
got to get 50.
The only one to me who didn't have a great number 2, and that's why it's going to be the biggest asterisk next to LeBron James's name for the rest of his life, was the Dallas Mavericks when they lost. Because that was a tail end Dirk. They was not prime Dirk.
Even when they won, Dirk was about. Well, who else did they have?
It was Jason Terry, Jason Kidd,
JJ Barea.
I can click on it right here.
But Jason Kidd was.
Jason Kidd was on the. He was on the out. He was on the out.
Jason Terry was a dangerous player.
Yeah, but he was.
No,
have you ever looked at Jason Terry and said he can lead the team?
He's the Jet dude.
He is Jet. He is the Jet.
They had Jose Juan Barea,
JJ Barea,
Corey Brewer, Caron Butler, who said Tony Romo was a better basketball player than him, Tyson Chandler, Brendan Haywood, Jason Kidd, Sean Marion, Deshaun Stevenson, Peja Stojakovic was on the end of that bench. Alex Ajinka was on that team, Terry and Jason Terry. So, Jason Kidd's a Hall of Famer.
I know, but at the time, that's not prime Jason Kidd, though. That's not like Jets Jason Kidd.
Yeah, Kidd's on a 25-point score.
I know he's not. So we're sitting here saying, most of these guys have had great 2 players to go with him. Like it's one guy, and then he's got a great, sidekick. Just like everyone wants to bring up Jordan and Pippen and LeBron with whoever he brought in years after the first Cleveland run, whether it was Wade or Kyrie. Now, but he lost to just the Mavericks.
Iverson might have been the only one who made it to a finals without any.
They didn't have. He didn't have no help. But you have to look at.
Andre
Hakeem.
rolled his eyes when I said Iverson had George Lynch.
Hakeem,
Tar Heel, you got a national champion Tar Heel leading your team.
Hakeem only had Vernon Maxwell. Really, he had Bob Horry. Big shot Bob.
Let's see the starters for them. Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Mario Elie. Otis Thorpe was the second leading scorer on the first championship team.
Cassell was decent.
Cassell and Kenny Smith did a good job rotating at the point guard. They just fed
it. They were very similar to Detroit. You're talking about the Detroit team not having the superstar. They didn't. They had a lot of B+ players.
And really. I didn't. And we probably didn't mean for this time, but we didn't mean for this to be like a bash LeBron session. But it was more of just we're just trying to elevate
incredible
the fact
how Michael was.
Haven't seen the run that Michael had, and I didn't get to see him.
They're learning.
I didn't get to see him.
Just think about it.
But even then, I knew how great he was.
His first 6 years, Bird, Thomas, and Magic won championships. After that, none of them got another one. and then Hakeem was the only one that got one while he was there, and he wasn't even there. Hakeem didn't beat him to get it. And
you could argue during Jordan's runs after Bird, Thomas, and Magic had kind of faded off because everybody will say, "Oh, well, they'd been in the league and they were getting old." You could argue there were just as many good players in the league after Bird and Magic.
And I want to bring up
Charles Barkley. You got everybody on the Jazz. David Robinson with the Spurs.
Don't forget about the Knicks.
The Knicks had Ewing,
those guys, and Starks,
Patrick Ewing.
The Knicks they had some stuff.
Cleveland still gave them some trouble.
I will say 2 things. The Knicks was one of the things I wanted to bring up, and we're going to find that out later. But one of the quotes that Jordan made on that,
he played
great.
Reggie Miller in the Indiana Pacers.
He said, Phil came in. What was it? It was a game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and he was trying to give him a speech if y'all lose. And
yeah.
No. He said, Phil, we're done. We're not losing that.
He said, fuck that, Phil. He said, fuck that. We're winning. No, it was game 6 because they didn't want to go to a game 7. He said, if we lose, we've all got it. He said, fuck that. We're winning.
He basically said, that's not even our, don't even bring it up.
That's not a mentality.
We're not losing. And that's the difference in him and LeBron, because you bring up LeBron, it's not a LeBron's bashing thing, but I still think Wade was the alpha.
Like I tell people when I'm talking about Pujols, it's not an insult when I tell you you're not as good as Albert Pujols. That's not an insult. It's not an insult when you tell someone they're not as good as Michael. I mean, is that in the whole past thing is just funny too. Does that mean I don't know. there's been some athletes in this world's past. Goliath was a pretty big guy back in the day. You want to go way back then.
I mean, you want to talk about great athletes?
Hercules.
Let's not act like Herschel Walker wasn't a damn good athlete and couldn't play today. If you're just talking about people in past
He
that
could probably
couldn't play
stood up
today's
right
sports.
now.
That stuff's so silly. The best players.
Lawrence Taylor wouldn't be as good today. No, I don't know about
It's
that.
not that big.
And me and Kevin dealt with this too. I know we're getting a little bit long, but Kevin mentioned we talked about this too. That when we were coming up, we would play. I can remember. What, son? I'm talking. Bruh. Red tongue. We would play basketball in his bedroom with the little Nerf thing, and his dad would play. And his dad was all old players that he grew up with. And he would always be Barkley too, because it just got under our skin. But that conversation was Jordan then and his favorite players. So, and we didn't know the players that was being talked about. We knew them, but we never watched them.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it is today.
Same argument.
It's the same thing today. But even then, I watched Kobe and I watched LeBron, and their play styles are too different. And I still enjoyed watching
Kobe's
Kobe.
a copycat of Jordan.
I know that's exactly what Jordan said, and I know it is. So, what I'm getting at is, I've seen both of them play, and I've seen the dominance that LeBron has had, but I still thought Kobe's game was prettier, and I think I could argue Dwayne Wade's game was just as pretty as LeBron's.
Dwayne Wade was the alpha of that team. I
agree.
If he doesn't, you remember how LeBron went to a fetal position at some of those games. I mean, in the finals. I mean, everybody's documented it. So Dwayne Wade was the alpha. He might not have been as talented.
Well, it's
as
Wade
LeBron,
County for a reason. Okay, that's Dwayne Wade's town.
And Scottie Pippen was never going to be the alpha on the Jordan team.
LeBron learned how to be an alpha from Dwayne in Miami and came back and was the alpha in Cleveland. On the set one in his second run.
He's done better.
He is. I think with age, LeBron has gotten better. But to me, I just think the road that was in front of Michael that he had to get ahead of until he started winning, compared to LeBron's, it's like I think it was just harder because it's arguably 5 Hall of Famers on that Boston Celtics team alone, and you're asking a Michael Jordan who was only in like his second or third year in the league and was matching up with them.
If you remember the game that they come out against, what they said was the best Celtics team ever assembled. And
in the first game, he drops 49, and in the second game, 63.
You're like, Bird's quote, that's God masquerading as, Michael Jordan or whatever. I mean, it was like, you're not stopping him. I mean, he's just like, and so the Pistons knew it too. They said, you get him out of the air, you can handle him. So I'm
excited for 5 and 6.
It's going to be good. I'm ready to see Dream Team.
Yeah, I think the Dream Team, and that plays into the reason why I'm excited for 5 and 6 is because we're going to see more of Michael's peers, or not. Well, they are his peers because they're
people
friends.
Going out of the league. It's the people that he came up with.
Yeah, it's not the people that were going out of the league, but it's also not like his immediate teammates. It was his competitors talk about him. That's not, the jaded Pistons who really didn't like him. You're getting ready to see 3 or 4 greats talking about him because I'm guaranteed Charles is going to show up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Magic's going to be talking because they've already shown Magic a couple times. He's talked a little bit, but now they're going to go more in depth. And I'm pretty sure Magic's going to tell, because they already kind of alluded to it in one of the previews, they're going to talk about the scrimmage.
Yeah, and
Magic is going to talk about how that was the greatest basketball game he's ever been a part of.
Kevin, could you imagine, because we watched them, a LeBron team with LeBron being the only star going up against the bad boy Pistons?
So you're talking about
I'm talking about how they would just destroy. I mean, just like beat all over him.
LeBron's first time in Cleveland, basically, against the bad boy Pistons.
It would be stomped in the ground.
He technically was running into the Nets and the better Pistons teams.
And as much as he cowered, they would be all over him. Because remember, they was talking about that whole situation.
The thing about the Bulls team as well is, and this is the strategy the Pistons did, they have 6 fouls apiece. Like, so when Shaq when Shaq says, I'm going to dominate Luke Longley, well, he forgot about Bill Winnington, and he forgot about Will Purdue, and then he forgot about Rodman will hack him 5 times. Like, dude, I mean, you're not going to out free throw shoot us. Nah. Think about Shaq playing against the guys today. Yes, he would get 35 because nobody could guard him, but the teams today would just try to outshoot Shaq's teams with threes. Is what they would try to do.
They could throw
They would foul
center
him.
after center after
Right.
center. That means nothing.
They would foul him, let him. But the guys today he would get 40 on 35, 40 on him, just like they
it
did
would be.
too. I just reading over this saying Rod Thorne says they didn't talk to Michael about the dream. Zach, this is about who made the dream team. They didn't talk to. He didn't ever talk to Michael about Isaiah Thomas. Thorne was asked why Thomas was not on the roster. He said that's a good question. Isaiah was a great player, a fantastic player. There was some controversy with the Pistons not shaking hands, but we ended up going with the first 10 guys. He did not end up making the team. Jordan Thorne also mentioned James Worthy, Reggie Miller, and Dominique, notable stars who did not make the dream team, saying the selection committee had a long list of players who was initially looked at. If my memory is correct, I think Dominique actually got hurt.
He was.
If I was going to put, I don't see how he shouldn't have been on the team.
You talking about Isaiah?
No. Dominique. Dominique was second leading scorer the whole time Jordan was there, pretty much. Like, he was Jordan.
He was the highlight reel.
He was Jordan without the winning, and that's what people don't. He was the Tracy McGrady. He was the the Vince Carter. He was the I'm going to do everything the highlights show, but damn, we just don't win. It just doesn't happen. And then Dominique, who was his second best player?
The center, Kevin Mitchell.
You mean Willis?
Is it Kevin Mitchell?
Kevin
Willis.
Mitchell was an outfielder.
Kevin Willis is a baseball player for the San Francisco Giants. Same time frame.
But seriously, Spud Webb, like what are the Hawks never ran? They didn't ever get him a Scotty Pippen.
Rodney Monroe.
Right. They never got Dominique what he needed, and Dominique was nasty. I thought if I was putting together a dream team now and taking people off,
I thought about this.
Leitner would be off.
Tim Hardaway.
No,
You wouldn't take Hardaway off for Isaiah?
he's not on. Tim Hardaway's on the second one.
Was he?
He's on the first one. First one was
Magic, Stockton.
Magic and Stockton, Jordan, Pippen,
Clyde.
and Clyde, Barkley, Bird, Magic, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Chris Mullen, and Christian Leitner. I never thought
got to go. Mullins might have to come off too.
Mullen's got to come off for Dominique. Mullen can shoot, but he's not better than Dominique Wilkins. You got to leave Stockton on. You could take Leitner off and put in Isaiah if you wanted to. But how do you take Stockton or Magic off? I mean,
No, it's not an argument to take either one of them off for Isaiah.
Right.
With what Stockton. I think Stockton went out with a better career.
Isaiah won 2 championships.
Yeah, you got those championships in. I say they're even.
So you could make the argument for Isaiah over Stockton. It's a very close argument. Mullen should be gone. Leitner should be gone. Whether you put Shaq in there or not, it doesn't really matter. If he's going to use a college player, preferably I would rather had probably, like I said, James Worthy and Dominique out there on those teams. Worthy probably is actually worthy of that nomination, but none of them did the shame that LeBron's James did on the country. Did you see that? D Wade. Fuck Zach. Did you see they're making D Wade now?
It's the Redeem team.
Comes out and says, "Oh, we're going to have a documentary on the 2008 Redeem team." Go fuck yourselves. You lost in 2004. Now we're going to do a documentary on the Redeem team.
And look at the lineup that they lost to. That's just a joke.
They lost to Manu Ginobili.
The one that
Hunter, how can you argue I'm the
With the
greatest player
stars.
ever and I have all the best players in America and I got beat by Manu Ginobili?
By himself.
Pretty much. Thiago Splitter was on that team.
Who's he? He was like a backup for the Spurs. He come in after Duncan.
Right. And Ginobili, there's your underrated player of the, I would say, of a long generation of all-time players. If you're picking your all-time European or non-American starting lineup, he's got an argument to be in there. I'm going to pull up that roster real quick before we end the show, Zach. That pulled up the soccer roster.
Chris Nelson pulled up 2 things. He said he thought Golden State was better than any team that Jordan played against. I don't know about the Utah Jazz. I thought they were pretty good. I ain't going to disagree with you at all. And he says with regards to Dominique, he had Moses Malone. I think Moses was like long in the tooth by then.
Moses did. The thing about the Golden State team that won the first championship, no. The one with Durant would be hard to deal with. as far as the Bulls playing them, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Defending them doesn't really matter with the Bulls. They got 4 guys that guard any position. I think that's an easy rotation to make. And then their center is some garbage center that Longley could play against. As far as
Pippen
the
is our perfect for anybody they want to throw up against.
and
He can guard any of them.
Ron Harper can too.
He's great. Jordan, all 3 of them
And
are top
Dennis
5
Rodman can
defenders.
too. And Jordan, all 4 of those can guard anybody.
Yeah.
And so whatever rotation you want as far as
This is exactly what you say. So the question would be, which team's better, 72-10 or the 73-9 team?
72-10 at one championship.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not even talking about that just won a championship. I'm just talking, you want to compare.
finished
You
it.
want to compare their best seasons. Technically,
They
their best
finished it.
seasons. They did finish it. Chicago Bulls did. The 73-9 Golden State team did not have Kevin Durant. So therefore,
But with adding him, they lost more games.
yeah,
I
because
don't think they
didn't-
were as in debt. I don't
they
think they were as much debt.
Yeah, but they didn't think about it. They were chasing
also-
73-9.
there's also
They
a
weren't
difference.
chasing it again.
Yeah, there's also a difference between trying to win 79 games and trying to
But I'm just talking about, like, if you look at those rosters, because that's all you got to look at. Just look at straight records. Don't worry about if they
Right.
won the championship or not. Those records, because they're very similar, they had almost the exact same seasons. The Chicago Bulls roster is better than the Golden State Warriors roster. It is.
who's
The Bulls roster was better than the Warriors roster. For the 72-10, it was
Especially in-
better than 73-9.
especially in depth. Well, listen, you just never convinced me that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson would just shoot the Bulls out of the gym. You might win 1 or 2 games that way, but
The only thing
as
that's
far as
gonna
teams, the Warriors dealing with some of those teams in the
the
past.
only thing that's gonna differentiate is what rules are we playing?
What would that true?
Prior 2004 or post 2004?
Warriors could not guard Akeem Olajuwon. The Suns, Barkley would have been. I don't know if they got anybody that could guard Barkley. They're probably maybe better than Portland. Portland's a more defensive team than offensive at all. The Lakers are a little older, maybe probably better than them. The 79, I'm not. That's 73. Whatever. Anything with if Draymond Green's your 3rd best player, you're not beating the Bulls. Just write that
that's
down.
true.
And that's a mic drop.
Just
Just end it.
All right,
Mic
real
drop.
quick to end the show.
Yeah.
Here's your Olympic basketball rosters: 2004, Iverson, Marbury, D Wade, Boozer, Carmelo, LeBron's James, Okafor, Marion, Stoudemire, Duncan, crackhead Lamar Odom, and Richard Jefferson. Here's the team that smoked them: Carlos Delfino, Gabriel Fernandez, Leonardo Gutierrez, Walter Herman, Alejandro Ariel Montequia, Andres Nacioni, Fabricio Oberto, Pepe Sanchez, Luis Scola, we've heard of him,
Yeah.
Hugo Ariel Snonokini. There's no way I got that one right. Skonokini. Ruben Walkowski, and Manu Ginobili.
Is he on Monsters, Inc.?
Walkowski, it was Mike
Wazowski.
Walkowski. All right, so Ginobili averaged 19 a game, Scola 17,
Yeah.
and Nocioni 10.
That was the 3 big names on that.
And it beat, and those guys beat Iverson, Marbury, Duncan, Wade, LeBron.
Shoot me now.
Shoot you now. I'm trying to. It wouldn't let me pull up the box score.
Sad.
They lost 89-81.
Sad.
They scored 81 points on those guys.
Sad.
Kobe had 81 in a game by himself one time.
Sad.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is that. All right, Hunter, pull up the. You need to pipe me up for this one because I haven't figured out the ending yet. Turn it on. Simple. There you go. Want to thank everybody for once again listening, watching Shock Joxx podcast. I'm Kevin Hastings. Zach Mayhue in the house today. Judah stopped by a couple of times. Judah, come over to the camera. Hunter Yancey. I'm Kevin Hastings. And then Saturday, we're going to start full time Thompson about it. Terry Reinhardt. Come over to the camera. Bye, everybody. Get up here, your daddy. Wave at the camera.
You do what you do when you want to be me instead of you, cause I am still on beat, showing love to the
All right, guys.
streets. You know me,
Shock Joxx.
that's who I am.